Good evening. This is the Town of Eastchester Planning Board meeting of February 27, 2025. If everyone would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'm just going to read into the record the applications that are in front of us tonight, so everyone knows, and the ones that will not be in front of us. So the first one is 30 and 32 Locust Avenue. The second is Pure Physique in Scarsdale on 74 Garth. The next one is the Great Day Family Childcare at 32 Harney. Applications that we've started here before is Shady Lane, 14 Shady Lane, 360 White Plains Road, and 15 Tucko Avenue subdivision. Applications you won't be hearing that have been here previously are Sal's Market and Pizzeria, 751 White Plains, 42 Maple, and 203 Beach. Those will be at subsequent meetings. So let's see. So let's just do the roll call quickly. Mr. Nemisak?
Present.
Lauren Goodrich?
Present.
Jim Bonanno is here, and Joseph Rubino and Michael Fortuno could not make it tonight. Let's see. So we did
And I
everything.
think, by the way, that since we have 3 board members, in order for us to move anything forward, we have to be unanimous.
Correct.
So if that scares any applicants and they want a 5-person board, we wouldn't really complain if you dropped out and came back next month.
Well, you can certainly present, or you could certainly present and then make the decision at that time, since you're here.
That too, yeah.
Cool. So then the first application is 2441, 30 and 32 Locust.
Good evening. My name is John Yanacito. I'm an architect, and I'm representing Locust Development, LLC, the owners of the subject property. We are proposing the construction of a new single-family residence on the vacant lot located at 30-32 Locust Avenue. Come over to the drawings. So here we have the site plan with the proposed residence highlighted in red. At the front of the house, on the left side, we have the driveway lead into the first-story garage. And then from the driveway, we have a walkway that leads to a covered porch on the right side of the front facade. Along the side, we have some steps down and a walkway that leads to the rear. And then at the rear, we're proposing a 10-foot wide wood deck. All right, this is the streetscape drawing, which shows the proposed residence in relation to the 2 houses on either side. The proposed residence is 2 stories high, similar to the house on the left. Locust Avenue slopes, has a slight slope from left to right, slope downward from left to right, and then the site slopes and drops 4 feet from the front, from the curb to the rear property line, from front to back. This is a rendering of the front facade showing the finished materials. The proposed wall surfaces will be a stucco finish with a taupe finish. The roof surfaces will be concrete tiles in a dark gray finish. Windows will be vinyl clad in a black finish. Trim boards and columns will be painted AZEK in a dark brown finish. The railings will be metal in a black finish. Gutters and leaders will be aluminum in a dark brown finish. And the front entry door and overhead door will be fiberglass in a black finish. The application was presented to the Architectural Review Board on January 16th, and it was approved with 2 recommendations. The first was to raise the band along the side, which is this band here, to align with the upper porch. And then the second was to change the bracket at the garage doors to be a curved bracket. So we've done that on all the drawings. And I have samples of all the materials if you'd like to see them. This is a landscape plan showing the proposed plantings. So we're proposing to plant new trees, one at the right side closer to the street here, and then one in the rear across from the deck to provide some screenage to the neighboring property here. We're also proposing plantings along the driveway on the left side here, plantings between the driveway and walkway, and plantings along the front porch. And then we're looking to plant a row of arborvitaes along the rear property lines for screenage to the neighboring properties. We also submitted drainage plans that were done by Benny Salanitro, and we just received some comments from the town engineer this afternoon. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Could you just elaborate on the comments about the stormwater? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I literally just got them like 2 minutes ago. I didn't even read them.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe Rick, if you want to go through them.
okay,
Yes.
well, we go to that.
Can,
Hold
you
on, stop,
just,
stay,
yeah, before you do that, tell me what exactly is there now?
It's a vacant lot.
Completely vacant, and so
Right, yeah, so-
30 and 32, what,
So they're each 25 feet wide.
so you're combining it to
So
one?
they're actually two separate tax lots.
Got it.
And then once the house is built, we're going to combine them to make one tax lot.
I think it might happen automatically, right?
Yeah, well, that's an application to the assessor just to combine it to reassign the
Okay,
number.
yeah, okay.
Right, so that's going to be a condition. Does there have to be a new plot signed, or it just automatically?
No, it doesn't have to be a subdivision plat. They'll just do it on the tax map.
So
Okay.
it automatically gets done. Got it.
Yeah, no, I had seen that, obviously, all the impervious surface that you create is new impervious surface. There's nothing there now, like no.
Nothing there at all,
No
yes.
nothing left over from some squatter or.
I think it was part of one of the lots closer to, I forget that other street, on the right side, and it got subdivided at some point.
So I guess all the stormwater and the Coltex and everything, those calculations prove they all make sense. They'll be
Yeah, so
reviewed.
we'll capture 100% of
Right.
the new coverage, and it'll be designed for the, whatever the requirement is for the town.
100-year, right?
I think it's a 100-year storm for a new house.
Okay. Great. Any comments? Once again, John, very beautiful, nice thing to see.
I'm sorry,
Certainly be a, what's that?
I didn't hear that.
Oh, I said, looks very beautiful. You want to put it up there, everyone can
Oh,
see
thank
how,
you.
what good work you do. You know, always looks good to see your work. Thank you. No, I don't have any comments, guys.
No, looks really nice. Say, that's.
So then,
Yeah, would you like to hear about this, the analysis of the stormwater plan
yeah,
before
we
you
have
move
to
forward?
talk to you
Definitely.
next, right? Thank you.
I assumed that was coming next.
No, I was going to open the public hearing if she didn't stop me. You would have.
I would have, believe me.
Pretty sure you would have.
Good evening, Rick Bolander, KCJ Consulting. And it might look like there's a lot of comments on here, but they kind of piggyback on each other. Most of them are geared towards stormwater, as was mentioned. But all in all, the plans look great. It looks like a great project. We would just like to see, first we'll get out there to do some soils testing so we can really hammer down the design of the stormwater. And we'll update it to attenuate the 100-year rainfall event. And, it's a lot of technical stuff, but we don't anticipate there being a problem with addressing those comments. There's room on the site. Yes, it is a small site, but there's options for the stormwater. So we'll work closely with the project engineer to kind of lay out what our expectations are and how we can get this to be a working project and just work stormwater-wise. But I'm familiar with the area. I know the soil's out there. I don't anticipate there being a problem addressing the bulk of the comments.
The soils there are not typically problematic.
Not that I know of in that area. I mean, obviously it's a little unpredictable, but just knowing the area, I don't think it should be a problem.
Okay.
Have the perk tests been done?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we kind of need to do that before we go much further, right?
Yes.
Oh,
But,
okay.
the system was designed with a conservative assumption. So,
Oh, as far as the soil type?
yeah, so there's room to work with.
Okay, so we're just verifying what the assumption was
Correct.
made before we make the design. Well, the design is shown on the drawings that identifies the number of call techs and everything?
Might need to add a couple,
Until we're done, right? Until we
yeah.
figure it out. Okay.
but we'll work with that. We'll work with the engineer on that.
Seems reasonable. I think I'd like to know what the soil type is and what your
Yes.
final decision is.
Yep. And we'll get out there as soon as we can. We'll make ourselves available to get out there to do the soils testing. I know it's starting to warm up now.
So water table high or low this time of year?
It's usually higher this time of the year. We're getting the snow melt. We've been in a drought. So
Right,
that
there
might
wasn't
help.
much rain.
So that might help, but this is usually the wetter time of the year.
Right, okay.
The kind of worst case scenario.
Well, that's good then, right?
Yep.
Okay.
We could approve this subject to verification, right?
That's up to you. If you'd like to see this information before you move forward, you can keep it open. If you are comfortable deferring it just to the engineering review, you can approve with a condition. That's your choice.
Okay, that was my presumption.
Okay. Other comments, guys? Thank you.
Just to add on that, I did speak to the engineer yesterday, and we do have a meeting out at the site next week to review and start getting a machine there so we can dig a deep hole test. And, we'll coordinate that with the town engineer.
Okay.
Right. Well, as our consultant said, it doesn't seem like anything that will be insurmountable. We're just verifying what's there. Okay.
Yep.
That's his comment, not yours.
Yeah, we'll meet, we'll respond to every question that the town engineer has and make sure that they're happy with it before we move forward.
Okay, got it. Thanks, John. So, public hearing. Let's see if there's any comments from the public. So I make a motion to open the public hearing on application 2441, 30 and 32 Locust Avenue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hello, good evening. I'm the owner of 24 Locust Avenue, which is adjacent to the property. My biggest fear, I don't want to
You
stop
have
the
to
project.
announce yourself, your name for the record.
Oh, Marcello Solano.
Thank you.
My biggest fear is drainage. This was all one parcel to begin with. They subdivided. When I went to the last architectural meeting, they informed me that each parcel should own its own drainage. What I'm afraid is that my structure, my house, which was originally there, has a drainage to a dry well that's on this property. And when they dig, they're gonna cut my drainage off, and then my house will not have substantial drainage. So my question to you is, what do I do as a homeowner? Because I shouldn't be acquiring the extra expense, because according to me, what I was told, that each parcel in Eastchester should obtain its own water. And now if the town of Eastchester already approved the subdivision. So if they start digging and they cut my drainage off, then my parcel can sustain its own drainage.
Sure, I
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do understand, but I'm not quite sure how that happened. How is it
How
that,
did it happen? I don't know.
well, no, how is it that your drainage ended up on their property?
I have no idea, because there's a dry well on that property. It's all one property before it was subdivided.
Oh,
But wait, your property was part of the other
Yeah,
property?
he just told
Yeah,
you. It's all one property, and it was subdivided. The original owner owned the whole corner, and slowly he sold off pieces and pieces and pieces. And then when he sold the house, the guy who bought it to subdivide it, to sell the house and then sell the lot. He
Well,
went,
The thing is, because that property was never your property,
was number what?
it was never your property, right? That piece of property, it may have had drainage on it, but it was never property that you owned, was it?
Oh, I own it now. I own the
You own your property, but not the piece of property that's proposed to be developed here.
No, but if my property was supposed to maintain its own water, and my property, the drainage goes to dry well on that property, now my property no longer withholds its own water.
yeah. Can you show us on a map what we're talking about? I kind of get it, but maybe it would be better if we could see it on a map.
I can probably, I don't know if I have this parcel on.
You do if you, the second picture you had. No, the one you had on the screen.
This one?
No, the one you had with the picture with the 3 houses.
Yeah, so he's.
And John, if you could just use the microphone.
Yeah, so he's this property here.
Okay,
So so from what I understand, his drainage gets collected, goes into a pipe, the pipe runs across this vacant lot into the corner, the back corner. Supposedly there's a well there. We don't know if the well is working, or if it's just something that water dumps into, or how high the water is. We're gonna uncover that when the engineer's out there and to do the deep test hole, and we'll see what's in there. And see if it fills, if it doesn't fill. If it doesn't fill, we're probably gonna use that as an overflow for our drainage. And, you know, we can work with the neighbor to try to take his water and also put it in there if that works. I mean, I don't know. That's, the engineers are gonna have to look at that and decide.
Yeah, because the issue, the good news for your neighbor is you're going to be putting in Coltex and all types of water retention systems that will address the problem on your property. So you're not going to be getting overflow from his, but I understand the issue is that you have a pipe right now. Yeah.
Stops. It doesn't
Yeah.
drain nowhere because if he cuts me off, then I have.
Yeah, and I think
If he cuts me off, then I have no water flow. Then everything backs up, and then it's already a high water table area to begin with.
yeah, and I think the part of the question here as well, and I don't know what the answer is to this, but I believe this issue came up before. Sometimes by operation of law, you may have an easement for your water, and that's something that you would have to either, I don't know if that would be in the town records, or the safest thing to do would be to hire an attorney who's familiar with this type of thing.
Yeah.
I'll let Mr. Tedisco speak, yeah.
I was
there
going
would've
to
been.
ask, one of the questions that the board member raised was that your property drains onto another property.
No, my property drained on my original property before it was subdivided, which you guys approved. It was all one property.
The drainage was
understand that, but right
installed when it
now
was
you're-
one property. Sorry, Rob. The drainage was installed when it was one property, or the drainage was installed after it was subdivided?
No, it was one property. It was drainage was there original.
oh, and you subdivided and sold
When I
off one.
bought the house, I didn't realize that was an issue till when we got all this rain and everything
But
flooded.
we never would have been able to subdivide your property. We could only subdivide property that was owned by somebody else. We couldn't take your property and subdivide it. So, yeah, so that, I just want to clarify
You know what I
that,
mean?
yeah.
You guys agree to it. I mean, my biggest fear is this, that if they dig and cut my drainage off, then my parcel doesn't hold its own water, which is in town of Eastchester, you're supposed to make sure that each parcel maintains its own water. So when you subdivided this, the town of Eastchester should have made sure the drainage was set for both parcels, correct?
Do you have a
Not-
copy of the subdivision plat that could be submitted?
Well, I'm
Not
wrong?
not necessarily, yeah, look,
don't
if there was a requirement that your property hold its own water, so to speak, then
I'm not
it's
the one
probably your responsibility to do
I'm
it.
not the one who I'm not the one who subdivided it.
I know,
How was I
but
supposed to know that?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're
makes no
misunderstanding.
sense. But you're here to protect us.
Well, hold on, let's just
The
just state
point
facts.
is, we couldn't have subdivided a property that was owned by you without your consent.
I
So
understand
we
that.
only subdivided a property that was owned by someone else, which they wanted to do. We did it at their request. Now, we're at the phase where we're addressing the repercussions of that vis-à-vis your drainage problem. And this is the time to do it.
Okay, but when you subdivide a property, before you agreed to subdivide it, Shouldn't you make sure that each parcel can maintain its own water? So we're not at this stage right here today?
Well, no, you're incorrect. If there are, let's say there are 3 properties here, yours is one of them, and there are 2 other properties that were either split or they're seeking to merge now. Those 2 properties are not your property, you are the adjacent property. What you're telling us, if I understand this, is that your drainage goes through an adjoining parcel. Your
Yes.
water drains onto somebody else's property. Now, at one time, it might have all been owned by the same person, but right now, you own a piece that water is being drained to another property that's owned by somebody else. The question is, the only way this board or you can protect yourself from that water that's draining to another person's property is if there was an easement allowing you or giving you the right
a
to
legal right.
drain through someone else's property.
Well, I'm not following you. So you're telling me it was one parcel to begin with,
Right.
one piece of land. Somebody bought the land, subdivided it, sold the house, sold the land. So now the guy who bought the house, which is me, I'm responsible to spend $20,000 on redoing my drainage when the drainage was already correct?
Well-
Because all of a sudden it's subdivided by the town of Eastchester?
No.
No, it's not.
No,
That's
you're
what you're
missing.
telling me.
No, I'm not telling you that. You're not
just said
listening to what
that.
I'm telling
I
you.
am. You
If
just
you
said
stop
that, sir.
talking for a second and let me explain to you, your property is next to 2 other lots that are not owned by you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You have been enjoying the benefit of draining water from your property to somebody else's property.
False. Till it was subdivided. Before it was subdivided, it was all one lot, it all drained together on the same piece of property.
So,
But when it was subdivided before the 2 lots next door, at some point, that big piece of land was subdivided, so you bought one piece.
Yes.
One parcel.
And isn't-
your one parcel has been draining water to those other parcels.
But isn't it the town of Eastchester's responsibility to make sure that before it was subdivided, that the parcel I bought maintained its own water? Before it was subdivided on the other, so how is that possible?
It's possible because unless you have an easement, which is what we're trying to ask you, unless you have an easement giving you permission to drain or to travel or to put utilities under somebody else's property, you have been enjoying the benefit of draining onto somebody else's
here.
property.
That's not
so
true.
may I?
That's not
Please,
true at
guys.
all.
So I would say that it's the homeowner's responsibility to understand where their water is going. Whether they know or not is really the issue, but it's the homeowner's responsibility to understand that your water is draining to the adjacent property, and has been. You're saying you didn't know that, it's always been like that, but I can't say it's okay then. So what we're trying to do now is work out something that'll work for everyone.
Yeah, we're
right?
definitely, we're
not-
sympathetic.
We understand your
Yeah.
condition, what I did here is that the applicant is willing to work with you to
But he
see.
makes it sound like I'm enjoying
Well,
my
you
water
are,
on somebody
right?
else's
Your
property.
water-
It was all one property at one time.
He's speaking in legalese. I'm a lawyer, he's a lawyer. And,
Okay,
and,
but-
and there's an
As long as you
entire body of law on property rights that we've inherited from the English back when we were still colonies.
that's-
We inherited all of that. It's a whole system of laws. And the bottom line is that you're not the owner of the property onto which it drains.
So-
And you weren't before the subdivision either.
So I don't
So-
think anyone.
But that's my point. When you agreed to subdivide it, am I wrong that every parcel in Eastchester is supposed to maintain its own water?
Can I just, so you may want to look back at the record of the subdivision and at your title report when you purchased the property to see if there is in fact an easement. That is not something that is regulated by the town, so you would have to do that research on your own. You could hire an attorney to help you. You could look through your title material when you purchase, because there may very well be an easement that we might not know about because it wouldn't be kept in the town records.
Correct, and an easement is a legal right to use the property. That would be recorded on the deed, right?
Okay, my question
Yeah,
is,
recorded
why
in the
would-
land
Why would
records.
there be an easement if it was all one property? Why would I need an easement to put a drain on my property if I own the whole property to begin with. And I built a house here, and I wanted to divert the water away from my house, so I put a dry well 100 feet away from my house. Why would I put an easement?
So you subdivided all
No, I
three
didn't,
lots?
like you said, I didn't own it before it was subdivided, no. The owner originally, whoever was the builder, built the house and put the dry well away from the house because he was smart, because it was a high water table, and he put the drainage 50 feet away from his house.
Your
So why would you
predecessor,
need an easement for that?
your predecessor might have contemplated that easement at the time of the subdivision just to
He didn't
address
need an easement,
the
it was his own
circumstances.
property.
But when he
Their
created the two
property-
lots, he created two separate properties, and at that time, he may have contemplated that this would become an issue and put that in. We just don't know, because that's kept in the land records and not in the town's records, the county land records.
So we have to get to the bottom of this somehow. But what I did hear, and maybe we should talk about this for a little bit, is, John, you said that we'll figure out where it goes. Like, where does it drain to now? Is there a dry well on the adjacent property right now?
It's not a dry well, it's a deep well.
It's a deep well.
Well that was there from years ago when this was farm. And it's still there.
And
It's covered, so we don't know exactly how deep it is. We'll have to figure out how deep this well is.
so not to say that it might be able to remain there, and you also put your chambers on the same property and they all function as they are now?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's a,
we're
I
gonna
mean,
put the chambers in anyway. Even
Right.
if that well can accept all the water, it'll just be as an overflow to go in there. And then at that point, if this well is accepting a lot of water, perhaps we can work it out where we can keep this pipe going into that well. I mean, they'll have to work it out. I don't know how to work that out.
I mean, that is the intent. The intent is not to just cut you
No,
off,
no, we're not
because,
just gonna cut it off.
yeah, I mean, the intent is to try and get you to maintain the drainage you have now, let them do theirs, and it function properly without any harm to either party.
Yeah,
So-
we know about it, so, and we've spoken to the engineer and told him about it, so when he's out there next week, he's gonna take a look at it.
So whose engineer is responsible for determining if what I just described will actually work? That his drain can remain as is and yours can be installed,
Guess
and
we're
both,
gonna- Since we have someone working with us for our drainage, we'll have him look at it and see,
okay, so that's,
come up with a plan.
right. I mean, he's willing to work with you to keep yours in place, pay for his consultant to also analyze your drain, such that you're not damaged by their work. And I guess you'll keep doing until you come up with a solution that'll be acceptable to both parties. Is that correct? There may be some costs. You may say, oh my gosh, your drain has to go
What
deeper or
happens if it
something,
doesn't
but
work out?
Well, we don't know.
you don't know. I mean, we can't tell you. What I'm saying is, there seems to be an amenable spot where you are now.
I know, but I need a solution if it doesn't work out.
Well, I don't know.
We
Let's-
can't give you that solution.
We're not stuck
This is
with
all about property rights,
Yeah, we're
and
not
we
gonna
don't, we don't allocate property rights. We don't adjudicate property rights. We handle applications that come before us from the owners, and we do take into account the effect on the neighbors. And we've given you a pretty nice forum here to voice your concern. My recommendation would be to hire an attorney to get to the bottom of it. I know that's another expense, but when you buy a house next to an empty lot, sometimes bad things can happen when that empty lot is developed.
I was told by my attorney, unfortunately, he passed away, that when I bought the lot, he knew about the lot, and he told me that they would not be able to build on the lot unless my drainage was fixed, if so, on that water well. So I did have an attorney,
So maybe
Okay.
it's in
and
the
I
deed.
was told that. So I did what you told me to do.
No, I'm telling you to get an attorney now.
Well, it's
sorry,
very
yeah.
possible he told you that because you
Because it was an
actually
easement.
have an easement.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to understand. If you have an easement, you are protected.
You're
Yes.
absolutely right. If there's an easement, you're absolutely right. We can't, we gotta
Is there-
maintain it.
What he said was consistent with you having an easement. He was either right or wrong. If he was right and you have an easement, you have legal rights to continue to use the property for the drainage purpose. You have to get to the bottom of that.
How long has it been in place
And
for?
we can't, this board can't figure that out for you tonight.
Right, but
And
how-
we have 6 other applications coming behind you.
Right,
I
just,
understand that.
And all of these people waiting.
so just one more question. How long has
I
the
don't
property,
want a time limit,
how long has it been
but-
draining to the adjacent property?
5 years.
That's it? Okay.
And please, don't,
It might have been there prior to the subdivision. He's owned it for 5 years.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, yeah.
So I recommend that you see what they come up with out there, engage them, they're willing to work something out. If it doesn't work, then get a lawyer and try and figure out what to do next. I mean, I think there's an option, there's a solution. I think you may try and see what that is first before you get overly concerned.
Gonna be next week, we're coming to the.
Yeah, everyone wants to be,
Be there, and we'll.
I think you have a good neighbor. I think your neighbor is willing to work with you, so you should appreciate that a little bit. Thanks, John. Oh, hold on. More comments? Does anyone have any other dry wells on this property? No? Good. All right, so what are we doing then?
So
Can we
the
make that a condition if we keep moving forward? Oh, hold on, we were going to say we need.
At this
yeah.
point, I think you probably want to see that investigation before you move forward, so I think.
If we have to hold it
Yeah.
off another
Yeah,
month,
we have
that's
to.
fine. We'll
This
come
way you
back
could
with all
do
the
your thing
information, And
on-
he'll be able to come back and then make sure everyone's happy.
Yeah, I think that would be
It may be
best.
in your interest to determine whether there's an easement or not, because
if there's an
if you
easement-
disturb an easement, then you've created a problem that you're going to have to fix.
Right, then
okay?
we'll have to deal with it,
So,
yeah,
it-
absolutely.
you know, it may be, you may have the impetus at this point.
I mean, when he bought the lot, there doesn't seem to be any easement on his paperwork, on the owner. He's here with me tonight. So there's no easement on his paperwork. So unless it's on something in his deed that says he's allowed to cross over the lot, yeah.
All right,
We'll
this
have to
is
see.
certainly got us going. All right, so we're going to just leave this open.
Yeah, so we'll
So-
see you guys next month.
Yes.
Yeah, so I make a motion.
Yeah, yes.
We were close.
So I make a motion to continue the public hearing on application 2441, 30 and 32 Locust Avenue to the planning board's March 27th meeting.
Second.
Cool. All in
Okay,
favor?
great, thank you.
Aye.
Yes, thanks, John.
Have a good night.
I think you guys will figure it out.
And by the way, I'll announce this, that even though there is no strict limit on anyone speaking, please be responsible and
So
courteous.
the
to
next application is 25-12, Pure Physique Scarsdale, 74th Garth Road.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pat Cardellemi. I'm here on behalf of Pure Physique Scarsdale Cardellemi Ventures Corp. We are looking today to speak to you about getting a special permit at what is considered 74th Garth Road in Scarsdale. This is the commercial building that's in front of Scarsdale Commons. It is the unit that is to the left of the Moxie Hair Salon. I think it used to be formerly a Chase Bank, I think is what it used to formerly be. Pure Physique is a franchise personal training studio that we're looking to open there. There's locations in Jefferson Valley, LaGrangeville, Danbury, and one opening in South Carolina, and hopefully one opening in Scarsdale as well. The way it works is we're looking to install about 12 to 14 weight machines and conduct personal training sessions. Clients attend classes 2 to 3 times a week for about 30 minutes. The model has proven highly successful in other franchise locations. Classes are anywhere between 1 and 5 clients with 1 trainer per class. So it's a maximum of about 6 individuals per session.
Can I bother you for a second? Could you just put these up over there so Gary can zone in on them, so everyone that's looking online
Yeah,
can have an
what would you
idea,
like me
or
to
do
put
you
up
have them there?
Have
Just put a few
some-
pictures up on the board,
Yeah. Let me get some up there for you.
just so if anyone's watching on TV, they understand what it is that we're talking about.
Yeah, no problem.
I think when you mean if anyone's watching on TV, the many people who are no doubt
They
watching
will
on
have
TV.
something. Yes, the folks that are watching.
I'm sorry.
What we really want to see is the exterior. We know it's a beautiful gym. I think people care most about what it looks from the outside.
I got some of them in here. And, man, did I not print those?
Do you need them? I have them right here.
I might not have printed them. Hold
I have
on.
them here.
You have them there? Okay. Sorry about that. This podium doesn't hold this thing very well.
Thank you.
All right. Sorry about that.
Okay, as you were.
All right. me get back to where I was, sorry.
Can you tell me again, what was the prior occupant of this space, and when did that prior occupant leave?
So it was the Chase Bank. I'm not exactly sure when it left. I know you had an application before you about 2 or 3 years ago for a boxing gym that was looking to go into there, which never came to fruition.
So it's been vacant for that entire
Been
period?
vacant
Yeah.
for, as far as I know, I think 2 or 3 years at least.
Okay, that
in
was my
in
belief. Yep.
So what we're looking to do is classes usually start around 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Again, depending on availability of who signs up for classes and how many people would be available. Like we said, classes are around 30 minutes each, and they run throughout the day. Most of the busy classes are in the morning before people go to work. So a lot of people like the 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning classes. So it will be a small, intimate, personal training studio. It's 1,500 square feet currently, and all we're looking to do is add into there an office, room equipped with a Fit 3D scanner, and the bathroom. We're not looking to do any changes on the exterior of the building. Everything will be on the interior of the building. So we're here for a special permit for a family and recreational facility for indoor use. Like I said, there are going to be a couple of variances that are necessary for this, particularly 3 variances. First one being that no indoor family recreation facility less than 100 feet from the property line. The building's already existing and it's on the property line. Second one would be the opening time. I think it's 9 a.m. is the time that's currently allowed. We're looking to open at 6 a.m. And the third one is parking. We are 1,500 square feet, 150 square feet per spot, so we need 10 spots. I couldn't find what was approved for before. I think it was 3 as a Chase Bank, so it would need a variance of 7 parking spaces. So we are not going to be selling any food or alcohol in it. We are no exterior lighting, no exterior amplification, no live music. We're not going to be getting any landscaping or screening buffers needed. There'll be no pickup and drop off. We'll be, obviously everybody will be parking in spots where we can find them available. We'll be making no road work or any changes onto Garth Road. No swimming pools will be built. So what we're just looking to do is utilize the existing commercial space and convert it over to our use.
Okay. I recall from that boxing application that there was quite a bit of sensitivity from the local neighbors about parking.
Yes.
And I know we, digging into the deep recesses of my mind, I know we were trying to think of ways, because there are a few big parking garages in that area. They're not all in the town of Eastchester. I think there's one in the village of Scarsdale, I guess it's village. But there, ideally, if you guys could have, and I'm really just, this is pure conjecture, but if there was some arrangement that you could make to have parking spaces through like a garage, an adjacent garage, a nearby garage, I think that would go a long ways towards addressing this primary concern of the neighborhood. And that's it. Everything on Garth Road that comes before us, it's always a parking issue. And
100%. Yeah, so I watched the 2 meetings for about boxing, and it was the same concern the last time, and I knew that was going to be a concern this time. So I did a couple of things in research. I reached out to Garson, the property owner, to see if there's anything to do with the lot behind him at Scarsdale Commons. I know that was an avenue that was looked at before, and again, same result this time. There's nothing that can be done on the property behind it to accommodate any more parking. I reached out to the village of Scarsdale about reserving spaces. It's reserved on a plate-by-plate basis, so it's not like as a business I could reserve spots for the business and just park our clients' cars in them, because I was willing to do that as well. But they would not do that. It's by registration of the vehicle, so there's no way to do anything in regards to that to add more
well,
parking.
could you do that for the individuals who are working there?
Individuals that are
Yeah.
working there could get their own spots, that's correct.
Yeah, and how many people is that typically? Two
So
or three?
it's usually 2 or 3 trainers
Okay.
that would be, switching out throughout the day.
Mhm.
So the trainers could get their own spots, but for people that are coming to the facility, there's nothing really that they
But at least if the trainers had their own spot, that's 2 or 3 people who aren't taking,
Correct.
public parking. And it's,
And their spots would be in the surrounding parking lots?
Yes.
So
Yes,
they
we could do that in the surrounding parking slots that are in the builder's card.
So they wouldn't be parking on the street. Someone else would be, but at least it wouldn't be them.
Yes, and it'd behoove them to get that instead of having to fight and feed a meter. If they're in, teaching classes all day, it'd behoove them to get a spot. In the park.
what hours are the meters operational there? Is it starting at?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, probably not till about 8 o'clock.
I would assume so as well.
So when the other application in front of us about gyms on Garth Road, our biggest concern is about the number of people you'd have there at any one time. And everyone assured us, the boxing guys, that the amount of, everyone that's come here, is the amount of people is kind of minimal. And you said it's half a dozen at a time?
Yeah,
or-
we're going to be between 1 and 6 people. So that's the point of the way the franchise works is it's small boutique classes, so that it keeps you get results that way. And it's not like you're doing cardio. There's no running on treadmills. There's no grunting and yelling. It's not weightlifting. It's resistance training.
Is it only supervised classes, or can
Only
somebody
supervised.
go in at random hours and just work out on the machines?
Only supervised.
Okay, so you do have a way of limiting the number of people
Correct.
who are there.
And what are the hours again?
We're looking for 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., but it will be limited because it's all depending on availability. So if there's no people coming, obviously we won't be open, but we won't have classes. But most of the classes are more in the morning and at night when people get home from work, and it's more of personal training sessions throughout the day of 1 or 2 people.
And what's the duration of a session?
Sorry?
What's the duration of a session?
30 minutes.
It's 30 minutes.
Yes.
Ew. Got it. So can we make a part of a condition that what he just described as their operation stays and it can't change, right? It can't be a Zumba class with 20 people.
Right, so we did a similar condition for an application called Total Form Fitness, where the parking variance and the special permit was conditioned on the facility operating in that manner, and if it was a more traffic-intensive use, they would have to come back to modify that condition.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, it's a special permit use. You can put conditions on it.
Yeah. I'm good. I think
Yep.
the hard work has come before you, right?
Sorry?
I said the hard work has come before you.
Yeah, I got to go to the
Your
zoning board.
predecessors, especially that boxing guy, he was very,
I know,
he
I
was
watched the
pres-
meetings,
he was
so
very
I
good.
prepared myself.
yeah, he was pugilistic, right? Anyway.
Well, I would hope so.
A big word, right? I don't have any more questions. Yeah, I know what I'd like to do.
Yeah,
You
no,
guys,
it sounds like you're aware of the issues and you're approaching this eyes wide open.
Yes.
So, yeah, no, and certainly this is a storefront that's been vacant for some years now. We'd like nothing better to fill it with a business that people are going to use and appreciate. Even if not everyone's going to use it, it'll be a positive influence on the town, and certainly the owners of the property are going to make some money off of it too. So,
Thank you.
stand by. We have to ask the public if they have any comments, so don't go far. So I make a motion to open the public hearing, application 25-12, Pure Physique at 74 Garth Road.
second,
All in favor?
aye.
So we leave it open until they come back with their variances approved?
That's correct.
And that's the time at which is there a special permit required for this?
Your board is a special permitting authority, so when it comes back to you, you would make a determination on the special permit. But
Okay.
first, they need the variance from the parking requirements
Okay,
and the
so we
other
just leave
criteria.
everything open? Good.
Yeah, I think
Then, so yes, that's what I'm doing. I make a motion to continue the public hearing on this application, 2512, 74 Garth Road, and refer this application to the Zoning Board of Appeals for consideration of the required variances.
second,
All in favor?
aye.
You're good to go.
Thank you very much.
You're
Have a
welcome.
great night.
Have a nice evening. Next application is 2513, Great Day Family Child Care, 32 Harney Road.
Hi, John, thank you very much.
William?
Good evening, staff, members of the board. My name is John Lentini. I'm an architect. I'm representing the owner of the property as well as the tenant who has made the application for a special permit for a daycare center. I'm here with Robert Thomas and his mother, Cynthia Josephs. Got Robert, Thomas, and Joe. And I have my laptop. I have small sketches I could provide if it would help.
If
to
there's
the board.
something you could hang up for the,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
for
we
the
have.
cameras.
Would you like the full-size plan for the board?
Here's the plan. You could just hang, whoop, that's not it. Excuse me?
I'll take it up.
Yeah, you can
Oh,
remove.
you know what, I think this plan might be slightly revised to show parking compliant spaces that is different than the larger plan, which is why I think he's putting up the
Yeah.
smaller plan. Is that correct, John?
No, let's just use this. Sure.
Sure. Thank you.
Speaking of the smaller, and it reflects a change to how I describe the parking spaces. Because back to the microphone. The revised plan I just handed will be formally submitted with whatever other upgrades are required. But changed the I was advised that I had the wrong dimensions of the parking spaces. So instead of 7 spaces that the tenant thought he had, we only have code legal 4 spaces. 2 on one street, 2 on Downer, and 2 on off of Harney. This use of a daycare center is for pre-K. All the students will be young. The amount of employees depends on how many students will actually take in. We've proposed 2 employees, but it probably will be 3 or more. The ratio of employee to children changes with the age. So it's either 1 employee for 5 children or 1 employee for 9 children. Part of his quest is to determine how many children he'll be permitted by New York State, because New York State provides the licensing for him. So he would hope to get 20, but optimistic that he can get 15. With 15 children, he'll need at least 3 employees. We're required to have a space for every 500 square feet gross, so that's 4 spaces. We have only 4 available. We need 2 for the house because there's residents. There's 6. And then we need 2 for for deliveries, drop-off. Essentially, we can need as many as 8 spaces, so we're short. This is where we would require to be denied and sent to a variance board. To provide you a little background, I'm sure you know better than I, but I've ran across an old, I'm not sure how old, it wasn't dated, but a neighborhood study. And it identified our area as Green Knolls, or otherwise known as the Greenvale neighborhood, that comprises 106 acres, which is 4.9%, 5% of all town properties. And of this Greenville neighborhood, 69% of it is residential. It adds up to, it comes out to 7 units per acre, which is quite dense. And the parking and the traffic is certainly a concern we recognize. The area is a wonderful area for this use and many others because it has access to the Bronx River Parkway. So in terms of people dropping their children and picking them up, they could drop them off, get right on the parkway, go to work. The drop-off and the pickup times are probably the most contentious with the neighborhood, and we certainly realize that. I would offer that, and maybe Mr. Thomas would be better to speak on any questions you have to that, but that parents aren't even allowed to come in when they drop them off. It's just up to the door, the kids are taken, and they get back in the car. It's a matter of seconds, a minute for each child that goes into the daycare. These children don't go to other schools. They stay there all day, and then they're picked up in the afternoon. The property itself is a one-family raised ranch that was already altered for a doctor's office, and it has rooms and a little kitchenette and bathrooms and everything you would need for its use. We have no proposal to change anything. We're not changing the way the exterior of the building looks. It has outdoor areas. It has 2 tiers of outdoor areas for the children. The state does require that a certain amount of area has to be provided. Can't lock the kids in all day. You know, they have to have a chance to get some fresh air. So Mr. Thomas operates another daycare presently in New Rochelle for 20 years. His mother and another family member would aid in this operation. There's going to be 2 residents that'll be part of this and 2 other people that would commute, which is 1 car. But in any event, we're going to need a variance for several cars. I don't know exactly right now, but I would ask for the most, and we'll entertain any limitations the variance board puts on us if they determine that we'd have to limit something to, you know, to be able to, you know, get a variance. It doesn't seem that it's possible to operate the business at the moment without that parking variance. So if you have any questions for me or Mr. Thomas, we'll be delighted to answer them.
Sure, there's a couple of things. The difference in this is you fixed the parking, so you got rid of the tandem spots and just showed the different parking. That's what this is, right?
Excuse me? I'm sorry.
On that blueprint, the parking that you drew out was not regulation, right? You had tandem parking, the parking spots weren't the correct size, so that's why you provided this, correct?
That's why I do that, yeah. There's 4 spaces.
Can you just put this up there next to that so that viewing audience can understand what this is? You took the time to prepare it, so maybe we should show it to everyone? Maybe with a paper clip or a binder clip, just somehow clip it to the side, just that one side. Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. So you could see the difference. Yep. No, I understand. Right, so you got rid of the tandem spots and you reduced the parking on Downer from 3 spots to 2 spots.
Yes.
So, sorry, so before we go any further, you're here to get our motion to refer this to the zoning for your variances. That's the first step. That's not a given. We have to agree. So you're not here for us to say, yeah, go talk to zoning. We're here to review the application and make sure that we accept it. We think it's reasonable, that we think it actually will work.
Yes.
So that's what we're here to talk about. And right now, I think we're all very apprehensive about that.
Yeah, we
And it's
did
not
have
just
another.
about, it's
we
not
had a-
just about parking.
Yeah, we had an application on Brook Street, actually right at the bottom of Ray Place,
Yes.
where it was for a similar type of operation. This is about 3 years ago, I'd say, and you know, notwithstanding the very best intentions of the applicant, it just the ability to move people in and out was, and I think we had traffic studies done. It was going to be incredibly problematic. And I just throw that out there. This is a different application, and every application is judged on its own merits. But I do know that particularly when you're dealing with very young children, you know, it's sort of a double-edged sword. You either, someone's got to pick them up out of the car. You can't just let them run, it's particularly in a busy area. But that means stopping, and it means parking, and it means, you know, and so that it's not like having a store and having a certain number of spaces. This is something we obviously care really greatly about, and there's always uncertainty that comes with little children. What are the ages, again, that you're talking about? You're talking about preschool, and is there any particular mix that we're talking about?
I'll let Mr. Thomas answer.
Hello, board. Robert Thomas. Yes, so the age ranges, we're looking for mostly toddler and preschool age kids. So that's 18 months to 36 months, and then 3 years up. We did see the Brook Street application. one thing we do believe we have in our favor is that the size of the operation is much smaller. We do believe, if I recall correctly, the Brook Street application called for like 40-something children, and we're at substantially below that, we believe, 15.
What, 15?
Yeah.
Yep. Mhm.
That's our approximation today. The next step, if granted and approved, would be licensing with New York State, where they'll give a final number. But we do believe that our 15 is a good approximation based on the size and of the property. Yeah.
So, thank you. So if I may recollect Brook Street also, I think the traffic circulation was far different than what we have here. I think there was a way to get in. Did they have to park on Brook, or was there
I don't really remember. I just know that it was.
I think
It,
here,
it proved to be insurmountable in that case. But I agree, you're a different situation, it's a smaller operation.
I do recall, when I reviewed it, I think they were using public parking or outside right in front of the property. We have the on-site.
so, I mean, the major difference here is the 4 parking spots that, hey, Gary, can you zoom in on are you back there? Yeah, can you zoom in on the revised one so we could see the 4 parking spots? Yeah, cool. So you could see the 4 parking spots there. In order to get the 2 on the upper right, you have to make a turn from Downer into it. Take your child, walk them all the way over, get them over there, then go back out and back out onto Downer. Similarly with the other spot, and if you go over to the other 2, which are on, same thing. You got to pull in and you have to back out. I mean, that's kind of objectionable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our concern, that I think on Brook it was just easier. I don't know, and you got 15 children that have to be offloaded. So that's 15 cars backing out. Or how long is the session?
So hours of operation will probably be between 7 and 6. Typically, and we do operate a daycare center today in New Rochelle of similar size, 188 Clove Road, sorry, right across the street from New Rochelle High School. Similar size, similar capacity, less parking than is available here today. We don't have issues with the backing in and out of the driveway onto Clove Road, which is you can imagine, a rather busy street, being the New Rochelle High School during those hours of school and letting out. Here we do intend on, I say, prioritizing Downer, less traffic than Scarsdale, much less. But the drop-off hours are typically between 7 and 9. It's pretty wide window based on parent schedules. Some are early, some are later.
Can I just add something?
Before
Well,
you
he-
do
he
so,
wasn't-
though,
he wasn't done.
Mr. Thomas, how many, would you be working there, or, and your mother, I
sir.
heard, and other people? How many
I just
total?
wanted to add something that was said before about walk. There's 2 entrances, but there's an entrance right on Downer to get right into the building,
Yeah,
so it's not
okay.
a big walk.
Yes. So how many employees as well, have to get there? And I'm presuming that there's going to be 1 or more cars that would also be needed by employees.
Two residents on site will be, operating daycare. So 1-car family. So there's the 1 car there. My mother and my sister, they'll be commuting together. So it's the 2 cars. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. And certainly I think parking is certainly one issue that we have to discuss further, but the operations, and as I said, the backing in and backing out, although it may work in New Rochelle, doesn't mean it works here.
Yeah.
It's a separate. So there's some, and I really got to prolong this because I read through the standards for special use permit, especially for, in general, I'm going to read them meticulously slow now so everyone hears them, and we can see what we're up against as far as the standards for a special use permit. And then we'll talk about the daycare. So just stand by. So the first one, the standard for special use permit, is the location and size of the special permit use, the nature and intensity of operations involved in it or conducted in connection with it, the size of the site in relation to it, and the location of the site with respect to streets giving access to it are such that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the area in which it is located. That's pretty critical. The next standard is the location, nature, and height of the buildings. This doesn't really apply. Walls, fences, nature, the extent of the plantings in site are such that the permit will not hinder, discourage the proper development of the use of adjacent lands and buildings. Maybe that refers a little bit, but the next one is operations connection with any special permit use will not be more objectionable to nearby properties by reason of noise, traffic, fumes, vibration, or other characteristics than would be the operations of permitted uses not requiring a special permit. Parking areas will be of adequate size for the particular special permit use, properly located and suitably screened from adjoining residential uses, and the entrance and exit drives shall be laid out as to achieve maximum convenience and safety. So that's a set of standards that we can't ignore. And right now, I see a lot of contradictions between what that says and what you're proposing. So I just wanted to put that out there now. In addition, due to the daycare facility, which you are what it is, there's all sorts of other conditions, but the one that applies the most to this is that there be adequate off-street parking shall be provided in accordance with the requirements of Section 13.
Right, and that.
Section 13.
Section 13 is our parking section, and that would be the 1 space per 500 square feet for the drop-off and pickup area, 1 space per employee, and because there's a residence, 2 spaces for other residents.
So that's what they're seeking a variance to.
Right, that's what's been
Right, right.
described.
Okay. So,
Well, I don't think any of the toddlers are going to be driving themselves, so that's good news. But it's mostly, it's the pickup and drop-off operation, which is, I think, a little different than, but it still tends to condense the high traffic into early morning and I guess post 3 o'clock hours. So.
It is rare for parents to all arrive at the same time, particularly during that drop-off window. So it's rare for 3 to show up at the same time, in our experience.
Yeah, and again, I know we keep hearkening back to the other application. One of the problems with that application was that because of the size of it, the likelihood of multiple parents arriving at the same time was greater. So I do understand that, but it's it is a very busy intersection. I think that's unquestionable, and so let's move forward.
yeah, I mean, I guess we could engage a consultant to analyze the parking and the traffic circulation to see their take on it.
Sure.
I'd rather, if necessary, we'll do that. I'm not quite sure what they'd say also. But,
Yeah, I think it's in your interest that we do so because you're probably going to hear, judging from the number of emails that we got, you're probably going to hear a lot of people saying there's no way this is going to work, and your best bet might be to have a traffic consultant
Well,
who analyzes, and maybe on different issues, but the traffic issue.
I kind of know what his consultant's going to come up with, and I kind of know what my consultant's going to come up with, and they're not going to be in agreement, right? I don't think we need to do the study. You're going to get a consultant that says it's perfectly okay. Our consultant's going to look in and say it's not okay.
Oh, I'm more
kinda-
concerned with what the town's
Yeah,
consultant says.
absolutely. I'm more concerned with what we say, and I'm really, I mean, I think in addition to a traffic consultant, our opinion on how this operates is important too. And we have to sort of weigh in on it before we go to a consultant, I think, as a board. So that being said, all these folks are here to have comments, so take a seat. Thank you. So I make a motion to open the public hearing on application 2513, Great Day Family Child Care, 32 Horning.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And maybe before we invite members of the public, as you mentioned, we did receive several written comments. They're all, any comments that we received before 4 p.m. yesterday are posted to the town's website. Just a very high-level overview of the nature of those comments were related to the traffic and parking in the area, a couple questions about the outdoor play area, and then a couple of questions related to the operational aspects of the business, which is really beyond kind of our review and would fall more under the Department of Social Services review. So to your point, a lot of comments on the traffic, parking, circulation.
Yeah, honestly, if all you folks have made the same comments, please don't come up and make the comments that the person before you has made. But you're certainly welcome to start.
Good evening, Bob Pulaski, 97 Maple Street. I was that's next to the Green Hills, Greenvale community. I used to live in the Green Hills, Greenvale community. I was on the board of the Green Hills, Greenvale community. A lot of the observations that I came here to talk about have pretty much been resolved about the parking. I mean, you just look at the plans and it just falls apart. But staying within that same direction, something that's very particular about this location is that when you come down Downer, you have 2 parking spaces now on Downer. The ones on Harney, I would not include, because one car length after the end of the parking on the 2 spaces on Harney is this massive intersection of Harney, Scarsdale, Brook Street, Garth Road, the Bronx River Parkway, and the other side of Bronx River Parkway. It's about a 6-block long intersection, and you hit that at rush hours, and you just can't get through it. This intersection has been brought up before the town. There was some special traffic study and some traffic items that were changed because of the hazards at this intersection. This was done, I think, over just the last year. And so the idea that you have people arriving during the general rush hour period and trying to pull into those 2 spaces on Harney if the ones on Downer get used up. Probably the person isn't going to be able to pull in because there's cars backed up waiting until the light changes, and then they might be afraid afterwards to pull in because then they can't pull out. So I don't think it's just a matter of counting spaces. I think you have to keep into account where this property is relative to that intersection. With that said, moving on. When you read the introductory letter, the applicant's introductory letter, part of it comes across with this thing, well, you know, you had a doctor's office, and that was okay in the community. That doctor's office had people coming and going, and we're going to not be more than that. And what you just read in the zoning about not being more objectionable to nearby properties. I don't find that comparable, that statement that the applicant made. Because a doctor's office, a small office, you get maybe 8 patients a day, each patient about an hour. So you have 8 arrivals, 8 departures. With the child care, they're talking about 15 children. So it's 15 arrivals, 15 departures. All of those arrivals are at once, and all of those departures are at once. Whereas a doctor's office, it's 1 an hour throughout the day. It's spread out through the day. So the traffic comparison between the two it's just incomparable. It should not be an accepted statement. Then you take Downer. If I live right across the street from the Greenville School, and I watch it in the morning when everybody arrives. And you got a fantastic traffic person out there. He's like an orchestra leader, and everybody listens to him, and it goes like clockwork. But most of those children arrive on buses. They don't arrive on private cars. Here, you got all of these private cars. So I find that is going to be quite the thing, and I don't know if the applicant intends to take somebody and put them out on that road and do the thing with the hands and the flags and
no.
whatever.
No, they don't.
Particularly since this may not be like a school session where everybody has to arrive by a certain time. So you may have to have a person there just standing on the road for a couple of hours in the morning, a couple of hours in the evening, just so that they are there to guide the car in and guide the car out. The statement also in the applicant's introductory letter talks about a mixed neighborhood. They talk about 3-story apartment building, and they talk about shops. And yes, that is just a couple hundred yards away from this property. But if you look at the development, how it's been going on for 15, 20 years, you have your business areas, and right next to it, you have a quiet residential area. And people buy into those quiet residential areas. It's nice to have a business area because you can go and pick up some odds and ends, but they buy into the residential area to be in a residential area. Now you're taking a very active thing and moving it into the residential area. Now, if it's in the code, it's in the code. But I'm just trying to paint the picture that the applicant's letter doesn't jive. This neighborhood is not a mixed neighborhood. It's right next door to one, but it's not a mixed neighborhood, and the two should not be conflated. When I was first look at this application, the plans, or the plan, the single plan in 8.5 by 11, I was surprised that it doesn't show a second floor. There's 2 stories, there's 2 floors to this place. What's going to happen with the second floor? I would think that that would be very important to understanding the application, all of the aspects of the application. As I got into this further, it became apparent that the second floor is going to be used as an apartment. They said it in their introductory letter. Your zoning says that it can be used for boarders. So is it an apartment or is it boarders? There's a big difference in my estimation of what a boarder is. A boarder is somebody who kind of lives in one of your rooms of the house, and they go in and out of your house and use the front entrance or the back entrance or whatever. But they don't have to have a private entrance. They don't have to have private cooking facilities. They don't have to have a private bathroom. That's what I think your zoning code means as far as boarders. Now, if you get into the realm of apartments, I think that changes the complexion, because I think an apartment person is going to want cooking facilities and a private bathroom. If they aren't given cooking facilities, then there is, in my estimation, a fire hazard, because is the place wired well enough in order to take a microwave and a cooktop and a coffee maker? There's plenty of stories of multifamily houses that have been put together in which there have been fires because the electrical systems are not set up that way. They're set up with convenience outlets. You can put in 15 convenience outlets to one circuit. But if you start plugging in 10 amp, 15 amp microwaves and coffee makers and such, boom, you blow that. And if you do blow it too many times and somebody keeps pushing the detector, eventually it can go to a fire. So, but getting back to why the second floor wasn't included in the application. If you're going to use an apartment, my understanding of how code looks at it is that you need a separate access, you need 2 accesses, you need a fire access. Not just 1, but 2. And if you have a single family house, it's assumed that you can just come through the house and out the front door or out the back door. But when you start to divide it up between an apartment and a daycare center, you need to treat that apartment from a fire-safe, with a fire-safe corridor, fire-safe doors, lighting that will, even if the energy goes off, the light will stay on with the battery, an exit sign, and taking this same thing, and going one step further about it. There's, and in the application, a need for exercise area. There are 2 exercise areas that are shown on the plan. One is 508 square feet, and the other is this balcony, which is 475 square feet, I think. How are you going to get onto that balcony? There's nothing been labeled as to how these exercise areas will be accessed. There are 2 ways onto the balcony. One is from the exterior, and one is from the interior. But if you're coming into it from the interior, you're going to come into it from the 2nd floor, the apartment floor. So these things, my point is, without staying with these details, is these things need to be spelled out on the plan. You guys need to, and the zoning board needs to be able to see a plan, digest it, and understand all aspects of it so that you're doing it fair to the community. There's a shed on the property. No, let's not talk about the shed. I'm surprised that we don't see anything about the New York State regs. Which reg? There's several New York State regs, but which reg are we talking about? Now, the importance of knowing that reg is that the town has its items. New York State has its items. I would think that the town would ultimately be above here, and the New York State would be down, or would be below that. But there could be some conflicts as you compare our regulations and their regulations. It's good before you get an approval to resolve these conflicts and just make sure everybody knows who has precedence, Eastchester or New York State. I've been in the construction business, and I know that you can interpret one sentence and another sentence and just go totally crazy resolving the 2. So I would suggest that we know which New York State regs there are. When you go on the internet, you find out that their place on 188 Clove Road in New Rochelle has an expired license. Now, I don't know if that's an accurate if that's a wrong website, that hasn't been updated. They have had some inspections since, so I don't know why the expiration doesn't improve. But going forward, if this is accepted, how does the town monitor this? Because now New Rochelle has a facility that's taking in children. Everybody's concerned with the safety of children, and they have an expired registration. So I see on the internet. So if there were some terrible thing that happened there, would there be somebody like the city that might be held accountable? Because our zoning code is saying that they have to comply with regulations, and so we become party to that. Railings, they say that the railings are fine, and they do comply with the one railing. But if you look at the property where the exercise area is, it's stepped, and the second step is about 3 foot. There's no railing along the edge of that step. There's no handrail going up the steps to the 3 foot height point. So I just think that this application just wasn't given due diligence. There is a shed on the property, not that it's really significant to this, but just passing it on, that I looked at it, and it's leaning towards the south. It's sitting on a couple of concrete blocks, and one of them is sheared, and the top has slid over, and I think that's what made the whole thing cocked on the long length, because the footings are at either end, the middle is swayed. So those are my items, and I hope that before this moves further from this board, that these items get cleared up, so that when it gets to, if and when it gets to zoning, they have a full package. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to find your doctor who spends a whole hour with you. I think that's. Bob, I'm teasing you.
I understood
Yeah.
that he was a dentist.
No, no. I'll touch on that.
Yeah.
Chiropractor.
Okay, because a dentist does spend 45 minutes an hour.
Ken.
That's why I said that.
Ken. Mhm.
Okay, good evening, members of the board, fellow community members, and the many who are obviously watching at home. My name is Joseph Pellicciari. I live in 10 Knox Road in Eastchester. I'm here speaking on behalf of my family who live in the property adjacent at 5 Downer Avenue. I lived there for 20 years myself. My father has owned the home with my mother for 36 years. I don't believe there's anyone in the room more qualified than us to speak to the situation on Downer Avenue. Simply put, we can't allow Green Knolls to have this level of traffic. The town has taken steps to curb traffic. This is a no-through traffic zone. No trucks in the area. Not only that, the town has approved signage to monitor speed. We're now asking, and we're going to take the gentleman at his word that it's 15. What should happen if he gets approved by the state for 20, 25? We're going to have vehicles lining Downer Avenue, blocking my father's driveway. Now, earlier this evening, you mentioned that some of the real estate law is generational and touches back to Old English law. There's the covenant of quiet enjoyment. Now, the rest of my points are really going to speak to the covenant of quiet enjoyment. If you were someone who owned the home next door and had 20 children in the second-tier play area, would you be able to enjoy your backyard? Probably not. If you had to leave your home and your driveway is blocked, you're probably not enjoying your home. I speak to this not out of a selfish bias, but really about opening the eyes to the board to have a little consideration for the neighbors, whether it's 7 Downer, 5 Downer, the home across the street. We're talking about an area, Green Knolls, which has 2 points of entry, well, actually 3 points of entry, and only really one means of egress from the property. Now, discussing Brook Street or Harney Road at that point as a drop-off location, I think that that is just an absolute fantasy land. That road is just not a viable drop-off location. If I were a parent, I would not drop my child off there. I am a parent. I wouldn't drop my child off at a daycare where the drop-off was on a main busy road, such as Harney Road, Brook Street. Again, I wish the best for any business owner. I want everyone to be able to pursue their business interests and of course, be successful. However, you know, it's really important that we think about this special permit and understand that not only will it disrupt the quiet enjoyment within the Green Knolls community. We're not talking about Greenvale as a whole. Let's discuss Green Knolls specific. In fact, when you enter Green Knolls, there is a sign that specifically states it is Green Knolls, discusses it, actually highlights its incorporation date. It should be looked at as its own separate entity, not really one that's being looked at with commercial property. To the point the gentleman made earlier about the doctor. Podiatrist, as well as, I'll take it back a step further, when there was a chiropractor that occupied the space. These were single practitioners, 1 appointment, 2 appointments at a time. This is not a revolving door operation we're discussing. So trying to draw a parallel between what existed previously and what is proposed, there is no comparison. It's not even an apples for apples, possibly not even an apple for orange comparison. I respectfully ask the board to keep and maintain the integrity of Green Knolls and reject this request, and I hope that this rejection, not to harm any business owner again, I just hope that this rejection would allow families to enjoy Green Knolls quietly, peacefully, without disruption, much like my family has for 41 years, or actually, I'm sorry, 36 years. I'm 41, but 36 years. Again, we have to just understand the disruption. The main point you discussed earlier, it would just be too disruptive to the community, to the neighborhood, and the small environment which is Green Knolls. And with that, I just thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alexander Kolesi. They call me Alex. I moved 3 years ago, and when you seen those plans there,
What is your address?
2 Tudor Lane. So I wanted to say, when you seen those plans, I'm just the left side. So I'm completing the border. You just mentioned you received a lot of emails. I didn't send any email because I wanted to make sure, I was heard. So before moving, before buying, I drove around White Plains Road, Brook Street. So I made sure, I knew where stores are, where the grocery it is, where the school is, where the hospital is. And I would never think in a million years that a school would come next to me, or a daycare, or any of my neighbors would turn into a grocery or a commercial. So, excuse my language, but I would say it, simple. I don't see no kind of, I received this letter, any special reason, because we didn't have any hurricane or fire, God forbid, like in California. Just where's the emergency for this, or special need for such a thing? So we know the difference between a commercial and a residential. You people know it to explain it in a way nicer way, better way, but myself, I would consider myself funny if I say tomorrow, can you give me a special permit? I want to open a grocery. I want to turn it into a museum or whatever. I'm pro-investment, pro-development, but I would appreciate if it would be taken in consideration, these reasons. And the other reason I didn't email, I thought this thing. If this town wants to go in hell, I'm the newest guy here in this town or in this neighborhood. Let the people who have 30 years put their voice first. It's again, before I moved in, I thought I'm moving into a residential area, not next to a school or next to a hospital or next to a facility. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think your opinion is just as valuable as someone who's here for 30 years. So thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Good evening. Just to reiterate.
State your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bob Bertorelli, 18 Vassar Place. I moved to Vassar Place 36 years ago. And that building, 32, was occupied by a chiropractor, a foot doctor. I have never seen more than one car parked there at any time. In fact, you could go weeks without seeing those parking spots empty. So that alone was never a problem with parking. In fact, I don't even know how that building was let, you know, the zoning was, they allowed a doctor's office there. That's, to me, is a commercial property. But this certainly, this daycare center does not fit in that community. You would be ruining the beauty of that neighborhood. They're all beautiful one-family homes, quiet, no noise. I can't see 15 children being quiet for 8 hours a day. So with that, I hope you consider, you know, denying that application. That's about it.
Thank you. Could you just hang on one second? You could go up and just, I have one question. But this is this is in a residential zoning, right?
This is a residential zoning district, but this use is a permitted special permit use. So that is a use that is permitted in the district, provided the applicant can meet the criteria or receives a variance from the criteria. So this is not a change of zoning or a change in the nature of the community. This use is permitted with the special
Right.
permit.
So my point is, there's nothing wrong with them coming in requesting special use, which is what they're doing, but that's where we pick up and try and determine if we'll permit it, right? It's not, they're not doing something that's just totally bizarre. They're asking a request that we're going to look it over and we're going to make a determination. So that's why we're all here.
Yeah,
Hi, my name
this
is
use
Pat
this,
Mastalone.
excuse me,
I'm
this
sorry.
use is not the equivalent of opening a grocery store.
Which is not a permitted use in
Yeah,
this district, just to
correct.
be
So,
clear.
Right.
okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, my name is Pat Mastalone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I've been living in Green Knolls for 53 years, probably the longest of anybody who's here. We've had many, many occurrences of near misses. There was somebody who was hit crossing the street on Harney Road not too long ago, hospitalized. Fortunately, the baby wasn't hurt, but the woman was hospitalized for a while. The traffic going in and out of the neighborhood is unheard of, with not only the cars, as somebody had said, trying to get out of my neighborhood now is like verboten, but we also have commuter buses and we have school buses. And we have no parking in our neighborhood for any amount of people other than the 2 parking spaces that are right on Downer. And I agree. I just think that it's going to change the whole dynamics of a neighborhood that has existed for over 100 years. You know, we've very active community. We really take pride in who we are as residents, and we love Eastchester. I wouldn't have been here all this long if I didn't. So I just think that it would be too disruptive to not only, and it's a liability for the town. God forbid anybody gets hurt going in and out. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
My name is Josephine Botchelink. I live at 40 Downer Avenue, and I've been there for 28 years. I want to add my voice to my neighbors that I view this as not only a traffic and congestion issue, but a real safety issue. Some of my colleagues have alluded to school buses. I'm sorry, my neighbors have alluded to school buses and the Beeline bus, but I just want to reiterate and make clear that the school buses, which we have many school buses going to the neighborhood, not just the giant ones, but also small ones that carry special needs kids to their schools. It's exactly the same time when all of the children will be dropped off and picked up. In addition, we have the Beeline bus, same time frame. The intersection, if you look at it, is very small And it's really one of two ways to get into the neighborhood and out of the neighborhood. Our neighborhood is very different. We don't have perpendicular streets like many places. It's basically a neighborhood that is a cul-de-sac, which means that in order to access all of the streets and all of the many houses on around Stratford, and then we have streets going this way, and we have Warwick and Downer this way. In order to access all of those streets and all of those homes, you have two ways in. Well, three if you count Tudor, but it's a little bit different there. When you go in and out, this is the one area that gets you to the Scarsdale train station. That's where commuters are going. That's where the Beeline bus is going. That's where people are walking. It's a really critical intersection. And those two parking spots, when you back out of them, you're in the intersection. It's not a little bit up further. It's right there. So you're going to be backing in and out. And as a mother of, well, my children are older now, but my children used to be pre-K age, I can guarantee you, unlike what the architect said, that when you pick up and drop off, it's not a matter of seconds. There's always communication, and I really believe there should be communication when you drop off the child and pick up the child. There's always talking involved. It takes time. If you think about all of the cars in and out, and on Harney Road, I can just picture the cars lining up on Harney Road waiting to turn into Downer. It's just not going to happen. We actually had, and I don't remember how many years ago this was, we actually had an emergency where we had an ambulance and police. I mean, I know myself, I had very elderly parents. I had to call 911 a lot. They lived with me. When I had to call 911 and my father needed medical help, you get so many emergency vehicles at once. You get the ambulance, a couple of cop cars, sometimes a fire truck. It's a lot. It comes up the whole street. We had that once at the bottom of Downer. And when that happened, I can't even tell you how many cars lined up on Downer. It was like a parking lot. We have a lot of cars because we have a lot of houses. They mentioned how densely, you know, our property sizes are not big. That means a lot of houses in a very small space. And this intersection is the most important intersection out of the two main ones if you discount Tudor, which I think you really have to, because that really only accesses Tudor Lane. So I view this as not only inconvenient traffic and congestion, I view this as a very serious issue of safety. We have children that stand around waiting for the bus. As I said, buses, Beeline buses, school buses, and people walking every day when we drive down, there's a line of people walking to the Metro North station. This is a very critical intersection, and we are going to not be able to access our houses to get in and out of our neighborhood, which is not supposed to have any go-through traffic. So I view this as a very serious safety issue. You mentioned about getting a traffic consultant. Who pays for the traffic consultant? I think it's a waste of money because anybody who can look at it can see there's no space in this intersection. You have a little divider, and you have one way in and one way out. It's very tight. It's just unsustainable situation. If there was even a daycare facility for 6 children, let alone 15, let alone possibly 20, it's just literally not possible. I don't know the Brook Street situation that was mentioned, but I venture to say this appears to me as egregious as could possibly be. So I'm very firm in my belief that this is not right for the children, not right for the parents, not right for the community. It's not just a question of well, there's noise, well, there's inconvenience. We will not be able to get into our houses and into our neighborhood, to get to our houses and get out with this kind of a situation. So I respectfully ask you to deny the request, not to waste money and time on a traffic consultant or anything else. You could just drive by and look at it, but I'm sure you have all the plans and you can look at it, and it's very plain to see. Thank you.
Good evening. Ernesto Gomez. I'm a Green Knolls resident. So according to the application, daycare employees are going to be directed.
Excuse me, could you give us your address? Just.
I'm in Green Knolls over on Tudor Lane. Okay. So according to the application, daycare employees are going to be directed to park on Harney Road. Harney Road's already consistently parked with cars. There will be no practical way to stop daycare employees from parking in the residential Green Knolls streets. We already see employees from Harney Road businesses parking in Green Knolls and walking to their jobs. Their cars line our streets nearly all week and already contribute to congestion in the area. This daycare will only make matters worse. Parents who utilize this daycare for their children could potentially park their cars on Scarsdale Avenue or Downer Avenue and then walk to the train station to commute to work. Again, more congestion in the area and less parking for residents that live there. The town should be concerned about maintaining property values as stated in the zoning law. Zoning law standards, I think it was like section 11, H4, the protection of environmental quality and the preservation and enhancement of property values in the neighboring area. Having a daycare at the entrance of Green Knolls would surely reduce property values. If a home near the daycare were to go on the market, an appraiser would most definitely account for neighboring commercial properties, such as this daycare, into consideration along with the corresponding traffic and noise, thus negatively impacting property values in the area. Again, as per zoning law standards, the environment quality and the property values must be preserved and protected in our neighborhood area. That will not happen if this is permitted to, if Great Day is permitted to run its daycare facility at 32 Harney Road. Lastly, if the town were to grant a special use permit to a daycare facility for a residentially zoned home, this sets a precedent that any home in a residential area in Eastchester can be used as a daycare facility while undermining the character and property values of the surrounding homes. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else? Okay. Is that true that you can, any residential neighborhood, you could request a special permit to?
So the special use permit for a daycare facility intermittent is a permitted special use permit in all of our one-family residence districts. However, you would only be entitled to the special permit if you could meet the criteria. So.
Okay, so it is, but.
Yes.
You have to meet the criteria.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for your comments. They were all very good, and certainly it helps us understand the condition there. I mean, we're all familiar with the area and we know it, but at least we get to hear it from the people that live it every day. Do you have any more comments, guys? Well, let's finish. Stand by.
Want to follow up? Okay. I just simply want to thank everybody for their input. I've heard a lot of the same, but there were new things I hadn't thought of. I'm going to research a few matters and I'd respond in writing rather than do any more here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Any comments, guys?
And I do know there was a comment about a consultant. And I think typically the way that works is that the applicant pays an escrow for the town's consultant. But because, for example, this traffic and parking issue is certainly one of the main issues here, I don't think this application moves forward even without some sort of further professional assessment of what the traffic and parking is. I mean, we do all have eyes. We can all show up at a particular time, sit there for an hour. Maybe you get a heavy day, maybe you get a light day. The point with having a professional do a study is that they can choose a better sample time, they can do it at different times, they can get a much fuller viewpoint of what the considerations are. And, I'm not suggesting at this point that that's a necessity, but I think for this application to move forward, I would be surprised if that would not be an important consideration.
So one thing we didn't really talk about is the parking requirements. Like, I know how many spots you need, I know what the variance is, but I don't know where any of these parking spots that are needed are going to be picked up. I think someone has to put that on a piece of paper and sort of show us any of the deficient spots. Where would they go? Would they go in the surrounding neighborhoods? Is there any place for these people to park, or they're all just a further burden to the community?
I planned on doing a little study on that.
Yeah.
And I asked the owner to actually take pictures during rush hour to see if there are any empty spaces. If they're not, we'll provide those too. It wouldn't serve our purpose. But I just point out too that the reason we're lacking so much parking, a lot to do with the description by the town. It's code, but we could use this as 7 spaces as it has been. The space is 9 by 18. It's more like a shopping center size. Usually on residential, you might see more like 8 by 16.
Yeah, I'd recommend you don't do that. I'd stick to what you have shown there. But there's one thing I also want to bring up, because Mr. Nedmasek's comment about a traffic consultant isn't the end-all. It's just an argument that you might make to present to us. I think what I read at the beginning from the special use permits is also, that's not addressed by your traffic consultant. So all the considerations that we would have to make still are really our decision, not the traffic consultant's decisions. That is the character and all the rest of those impacts to the town, to the community.
Yeah, but to your point about having your client take photographs at a particular time, as I said, you might get an unusually low day. Maybe it's a holiday that day. Maybe the weather isn't good that day. I don't know. Maybe there's some great sporting event on TV at the time. Who knows?
A whole normal week. A whole normal week between certain hours.
Correct.
And not to try to slant it.
But even then, someone's going to say, well, I went there on different days, and every single day I could barely get across the street. I've been on this board now for 16 years. I've seen that pattern time and time again.
Yeah.
We all have our own perceived reality. And these are residents who've lived in this neighborhood for a long time. I'm not going to discount their perceived reality. Their perceived reality may be exactly the same as a consultant would find. So I'm just telling you that's why I, in particular, value someone who doesn't have a stake in the same stake in the outcome. Someone who's more objective, whose sole function is to inform this board so that, as the chairman said, we independently can make a decision that we believe is in the best interests of both the applicant and the community at large. And it's ultimately the community that we have the greater responsibility towards.
Understood.
And if I could just add one more thing, because I feel like talking tonight. I think they appreciate what everyone comes here and advocates for their town, but we on the board are residents of Eastchester too, and we're not here just to approve applications. We take it to heart, and if there's an argument to be made, we'll find it. We want to make the right decisions here. You've sort of heard the comments of the 3 people that are up here. There's 2 other board members, and you haven't heard them, so you can probably imagine how they're going to look at this too. So before you go and strategize what to do next, you probably can read what our opinion is going to be when you come back. Okay? Thank you.
So at this point, we're not getting referred to the zoning board?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So we'll come back next month with information that might help your decision?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Understood.
You're leaving the public hearing open.
Oh,
In case
yeah,
there's
do I have to make
additional
that?
information.
I was so happy with what I said. I have to do that? That sounds so mundane. So I'm going to make a motion to keep the To keep the public hearing application, oh my gosh, application 2513, Great Day Family Child Care, 32 Horner Road, open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
You stole my thunder. One time I was
The
making coffee.
next application is 2501 Shady Lane.
I like to talk to.
No, I don't like to talk.
But it's important.
No, I know.
I sometimes hog it.
No, I always joke. I say
like-
people probably think I'm like, lights are on, but no one's home. But I'm sitting here saying, oh.
No, I do appreciate when you have spoken. You usually
No, I think a
have
lot of-
something very nicely reasoned, and it's good to get. I mean, look, you're a young parent.
That's what well,
It's a
beside-
good thing.
Excuse me, please keep it quiet. If you're gonna leave. We
Yeah,
have
could you-
other applications.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're only halfway done.
No, this one's going to be quick. You have to get, oh, I'm sorry, there was a gentleman here that had a comment.
My spidey
Darn.
senses are tingling. Check on the children. There's a lot of it.
Good evening. Sid Schloman, architect, on behalf of the owners of 14 Shady Lane. This project was presented before the board last year, obtained planning board approval, obtained architectural review board approval, obtained all the necessary building permits, electrical permits, and plumbing permits, and the project commenced. The project is in construction. Right now, I think you have photos. I don't have the photos printed, but the house pretty much looks like this. Maybe the garage door's not in, the front door's not in. We have been re-referred to the planning board because during the course of the construction or the demolition, more demolition occurred than what was previously approved by the building department in terms of the percentage of walls and things like that. So pretty much triggered the need to come back here. And although not a full knockdown of a house, it's pretty much 90% of a knockdown. So we were requested both by the town attorney, the town building department, to come back to the planning board to get reapproval. The things that have changed aesthetically with the architectural review board and the planning board, nothing has changed. The design is exactly the same, the size is exactly the same. The zoning, if anything, has improved. The previous one had a 0.1 of a foot existing non-conforming condition that has been corrected. So in essence, the original application consisted of taking off the partial second floor. Perimeter walls on the first floor were going to remain and be reworked, and interior alterations, and the end result would look like this. What physically really happened was pretty much everything came down to the first floor flooring, hence the need for the reapplication to the planning board. The basement stayed exactly the same, the foundation stayed exactly the same, the footprint, the zoning, everything stayed the same. What we did do is classify this as a knockdown, so we redesigned the stormwater plan. Although the impervious surfaces were all exactly the same, we acknowledge that previously we took credit for what was existing and we only designed the stormwater plan for the additional impervious surface. What we had our engineer do is test the soil, do the deep test, the percolation test, and redesign the stormwater plan that has since been submitted quite a while ago to the building department. It netted an increase in the size and the number of the Cultex to conform with the Eastchester criteria, the 100-year storm. And the other thing that happened is this front portico was constructed. It was constructed 0.1 of a foot closer to the front property line than it should have been. So rather than pursue a zoning variance, the owner and builder are going to reconstruct it to meet the zoning criteria. So in the end, everything, every material, every light fixture, every garage door, every shape and size, it will be exactly the same as the original application. but we're here for a reapproval because of the procedures that took place. The logistics of the actual construction was different than what was laid out in the original application.
So before we get into questions, just a curiosity, how do you know that that portico was constructed 0.1 of a foot
Because
outside?
we had a survey done after the fact, and it was permitted to be, I think it was 26 feet from the front property line, and it was at 25.9. It was, the survey, it's standard to do a survey after the foundation is in, after things are done, because there's always a final survey that's done at the end of the project that's submitted. So we did one, you know.
It's not a requirement, it's just a
No, it's not, it is a
choice.
requirement.
To survey a property? to
For
make
Art the
sure it
Foundation,
meets
yes,
them. Oh,
right.
yeah? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that explains it.
You know,
I mean,
because at the
it's
end
a
of the
hint,
project,
right.
you have to kind of make sure
Yeah,
you
I
did
guess
it
they could.
not bigger than it should have been, like this.
Okay,
So-
thank you. So, just a couple of things, and then we'll, so the main, so if I understand this correctly, you guys didn't file a demolition permit.
Well, part of the building permit included extensive demolition, probably 50 or 60% of the house, and that's what was approved. The builder, while they, you know, gutted the house, took it upon themselves. They saw things were rotted, things weren't perfectly plumb or straight, so they ended up replacing every single member. So they thought they were doing a good thing, not realizing they were perhaps triggering a threshold that would lead us to come back to the planning board.
So the extent of demolition that was done exceeded that which was approved.
Correct.
That's about what it is.
That's
So
about-
that's the main objection.
Correct.
Okay. There was also, and I know when the applicant was here last time, we said, please come with a comparison of what was approved against what was built. And what you
Yes.
have here is what was designed.
Yes, so the drawings themselves reflected, let me just. So in essence, it is the same. The foundation stayed, remained. The new foundation was built exactly as per the plan. What changed is the wording. So the wording on the application, the wording on the drawings, as well as the stormwater plan. Those are the three main things that changed. The zoning, this used to be 9.9 because that was the existing condition, existing legal non-conforming. Since it was constructed new, it was built at 10 feet. So this changed for the better. The stormwater plan in the rear, so the drawings have been updated to show what was actually changed, and these, it's basically the semantics, or not the semantics, but the percentage of demolition has increased, and the stormwater plan has changed. Those are the main changes in the application.
Right, but the elevations from the street remain the same.
Correct.
None of that has changed.
I do have the photos if you want to put them up, if you'd like to see them. No, okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I do have something of a concern, because I did go past and I even took photos of the site, and one thing I was not pleased with, looking back at the approved rendering, is that in the approved rendering, the windows on the second floor are all somewhat evenly spaced. They're underneath dormers, and as built, it's not that way. There's actually one
Two of the
smaller
windows are
window.
closer together
There's
than-
two windows are together. They're asymmetrical, noticeably asymmetrical.
So they were never symmetrical to begin with.
Well, they were positioned. If you kind of put it up, there was two on one. Yeah. If you can you put up the illustration? Yeah, that you used before. See, they were basically. Mm-hmm. But see, it's not perfectly symmetrical, but you can see where there's sort of a on either end there are groupings of two, and sort of in the middle there are two, and all of the windows are the same
I mean, it's
size.
not really a rhythm, you know, this is different than this. Everything's a little bit different. They were basically dictated by the interior layout, and the architectural review board agreed that, it was okay. It wasn't, we weren't going for symmetry or perfect
Yeah,
symmetry of a
it's not
colonial.
perfect symmetry on this, but
Right.
it's
I
even
think
more
the main
imperfect.
difference are these two.
Mhm.
They're probably a foot closer than what's represented here.
And you have a smaller window above the portico.
This one.
Yeah, it is a smaller window. It's noticeably smaller.
So, Mr. Nemisak, what are you saying? You took a picture, you took a
Yeah, I could check.
a picture of what's there, and it's
yeah.
not what we're looking at.
I mean, I can put the picture up here if you.
I have one too.
Yeah, you have a picture? Yeah, okay.
Talking about it, than actually looking at pictures.
I mean, look, it's not perfect. I don't know that every design comes back perfect. I'm just saying, it's something that is a little bit different because you said it's basically been built as, and I could tell immediately. And my wife was recently finished her 10-year tenure on the Architectural Review Board. She immediately saw that's not something that I would have approved as that. So,
But it's not a showstopper the way it's been
it's
built?
not the end of the world, but it is.
Well, either we would, try for reapproval or correct it physically to the way it was previously approved.
Yeah, and.
Oh, okay. Done. Any other comments, guys?
No, that's the only comment I had.
Okay.
Yep.
No, I mean, I, as you said, I think if the exterior looks substantially similar to what we're looking at here, I don't really care very much what went on inside, other than the fact
Okay,
that.
no, it's just a procedural.
Yeah.
Besides the differences,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
mean, it's-
procedural.
It's
Yeah,
upsetting.
the stormwater and
Yes.
that piece is an
That
important
has been
piece.
addressed.
Yes, exactly. I'm glad to hear that's been addressed, because that is we can't encourage anybody to kind of do an end around the rules.
Correct.
And I know it may not have been intentional
Yeah, I
here,
don't think
but
there
that
was
the
any ill
effect.
intent, but
Yeah,
it's
correct. But that was the net effect unless we corrected it. So we've corrected that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of, in our minutes here, there's a number of conditions or questions we have that we made at the last meeting, which you did respond to. I'm not going to go through them, but it seems like our planner put them all on paper and you guys provided responses so we could see them side by side. And it seems like you've addressed all of our comments from the earlier meeting. With the exception is one of us asked that you explain what exactly went on inside, which I don't really think we need to know. You found something that wasn't in good shape and you just took it out.
No, the framer, the contractor took it upon themselves. They found things. I think in essence, they wanted a better product or a perfect product, and they just went ahead and did it without pausing or asking or realizing.
We had heard conjecture at the last meeting that whether it was intentional or not, that the construction site had been left unprotected during a heavy storm, and that may have led to some of the damage. Now, at the end of the day, if it's damaged, it's got to be fixed, and I would think it's rather irrational for somebody to say, well, I really don't like this lower floor, so I'm going to just let the elements go to work on it. That there are easier ways of causing a problem if you needed one. Again, I'm not really that interested in, I don't ascribe. I don't ascribe a deliberate intention, but whether, if it was because of the elements intruding on it, because something happened during the construction, it's still something you have to deal with. The concern that we had, that we expressed last month, was that if you have a problem of this nature that arises during the construction phase, the answer isn't to engage in self-help, although certainly you want to take precautionary measures to make sure that everything's safe. But if you have a problem like that, you give a phone call over to the planning department, exactly, or building department, and they will let you know what to do, and we don't have this problem.
Correct.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest objection that the public had. Right, there was no benefit to what you guys did other than you took something out that was deteriorated, right?
It was
It's
probably
still the
more of
same
an expense, if
right, it's the
anything.
same application.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's see what the public has to say, if there's any comments, so stand by. So I think this is an open public hearing, so if anyone has any comments on this application?
For this application, we also received several emails that were posted to the town's website.
Okay, great, thank you. Excuse me.
Hello, Reed Cornman, 10 Shady Lane. Hello again.
Hi.
So I'm not entirely sure how much into the weeds you guys will want to get on this, so I'm just going to ask questions. You can tell me whether or not it's worth discussing.
Sure.
The dry wells, I was reviewing the architectural drawings. Have the dry wells been inspected since they've been installed? Is that something that is of the purview for this crew?
Yeah, I don't know the answer. Let's find out.
Yeah,
See what we
that,
got.
I don't know the answer to that. That would be a question for the building department. Sure.
They haven't been installed yet.
Okay.
Okay, but they
So
will
no.
be. But the building department does look to make sure they're installed for the
Correct.
drawings when they're done.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes, they will be.
Thank you for humoring me. And with regards to the environmental study, is it going to be a full review as if it were a new build, or is that an abbreviated study? I don't know the.
Yeah, this is a type 2 action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, so there is no secret review that's required.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, whether it was a complete tear down or not, right?
Correct. Anything involving a single-family residence is type 2.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
And again, this might be in the weeds. The gross floor area calculation, is that a little bit too much in the weeds, or would you guys know what I'm talking about there?
I'm sure there's an architect who will be able to answer it, but you could ask him.
Yeah.
So basically, the GVA calculation for the house excluded the garage, and I believe if that was included, it would exceed the maximum permitted for the building. So I wanted to ask if that was a consideration worth.
Yeah, okay. I don't know the answer, but.
Yeah,
someone
that's
here
something
does.
that is reviewed by the building inspector in determining the zoning compliance. Garages to a certain extent are excluded from gross floor area in residences. So the lesser of 400 square feet or the total area of a one-story attached garage would be excluded.
Yeah, bottom line is what we approved, I think was reviewed.
Correct.
And if it's built effectively as approved, it ought to, get a stamp of approval at the end of the day.
Okay. Thank you for helping me understand that. And I think the last question around the current limit for an R6 zoned house, what is the maximum height limit? And I believe this building is going from currently previously 26 feet tall to nearly 29 feet. Is that within that limit? Sorry, I'm not trying to quiz you guys. I just couldn't find the answer myself.
Well, I don't rely on my memory for these things, so the maximum height would be 23 feet to the height, 33 feet to the ridge.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah. And again, all of these calculations, all of these requirements, as I understand it, even before they get here, they have to comply, or the applicant has to seek a variance. And the fact that we didn't talk about it suggests to me, I mean, I don't get out a protractor and try and figure this out. It's, we have a professional, we have people who are paid to do it.
Right. I usually don't get into the details, but I felt compelled to, so thank you for hearing me. That's all I had to add.
That's it? Okay,
Great.
cool.
Thank you.
Yes, Bruce DeSenchuk, 2 Bronson Ave, Scarsdale, Eastchester. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for all the work that you do selfishly. I find it surprising that Ms. Shu, who is a real estate agent for 10 years, over 10 years at Houlihan Lawrence, still does not know the difference between Scarsdale and Eastchester. I'd like to inform Ms. Shu that there is usually on the for sale of a house, there's an announcement that states basically the school district and the schools that they would attend. Enough of that. My question is, who owns 14 Shady Lane? Ms. Shu previously stated that she owned it, yet I see on the architect's drawing submission that there's a company called J.A. Full House. So just, is Ms. Shu J.A. Full House, or is she part of a conglomerate or a group of people, or what? Also, I noticed that J.A. Full House registered for incorporation in December 2023, yet the house did not close until February of 2024. Now, the question is, and I would imagine, since you're both attorneys, you'll fight over this one. Can you register for incorporation on property that you do not own? If so, 40 Mill Road or 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, I'm looking forward to registering my company there. Finally, I would like to see the house completed to the satisfaction of the board and its neighbors. I would then like to see the owner find the maximum amount allowed by the town of Eastchester, with 25% of that fine going to the Green Knolls, Greenvale Association for all the pain, aggravation, discomfort, et cetera, that they have suffered in this procedure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, well, we're just the planning board. We can't find anyone, but your point is taken.
I was just going to
Yeah.
clarify that there is no pending case in court in terms of a violation that would obtain a fine. So there's nothing pending with respect to this property.
So even if we could, we wouldn't.
All right, but can you answer the question then? Can you register a company on a property that you do not own?
I don't know the answer to that, but I do know you can incorporate without any property.
And that's really beyond this board's jurisdiction. That's just beyond this board's jurisdiction and
Correct.
expertise.
Correct.
The attorney, do you have any?
I don't practice this type of law, but the point is, the point is, it doesn't matter. There's no suggestion that the property owner is owning the property illegally, is there?
And it doesn't really, and it's
Well,
really,
If they're not a legal corporation, how can they purchase the how
If they're incorporated, then they're a legal corporation. It's that simple. It's not difficult to incorporate.
Okay.
You can incorporate, all you have to do is pay a fee and make a filing with the state of New York, and you're incorporated in the state of New York. It's not that difficult, yeah.
Who owns, is J.A. Full House, is Ms. Shu J.A. Full House, or?
I don't know that
So
she's required to disclose that.
yeah, I'm not
We
really
don't-
sure
we
how
don't-
relevant
We
that
don't make
is.
those inquiries.
I'm
yeah.
not really sure how relevant that is to this board. It's a good question, but I'm not really sure we take that into consideration when we look at the
Okay,
application.
thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? Good. So what do we do now? Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any more comments, guys. Do you? No, good. So I think I'm okay to go forward unless you guys disagree. I'm going to close the public hearing and bring this up for a vote. Public hearing. So I make a motion to close the public hearing on application 2501, 14 Shady Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then I've got a couple of conditions here. I think you went from the Fort Portico. You're going to fix that. We didn't talk about this, but I'll read it out anyway. The finishes on the residence, including light fixtures, shall be installed in compliance with the planning board's approval of April 25th, 2024. If you know what that means, I'm
Yeah,
good.
at the last meeting, we just asked to resubmit, and that's what's shown there, so.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and this is just a CYA. This approval authorizes the applicant to undertake only the activities specifically depicted on the plans submitted for review, and maybe it's not a CYA, and reviewed at this meeting, and in accordance with this resolution of approval, any changes or modifications to such plans require amended site plan approval from the planning board. Do we put that in every application?
Yes.
Oh, we probably put
Conditions
that in that
must be
before.
on the face
So
of the
appropriate.
resolutions, yes.
Who would have known? So with that being said, I make a motion to approve application 2501, 14 Shady Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Last application, is it the last?
No, we have two more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, no, it's 9:30.
You got
You're up,
three-
Louis. 2327, 360 White Plains Road.
All right, we're good, Louis.
Okay. Good evening, Chair, members of the board. Louis Campana, architect on behalf of the applicant, here for 360 White Plains Road. We've been in front of the board a number of times. We received area variances from the zoning board, and we also saw the architectural review board, who had two minor comments on the drawings. They're really just, I guess, back of house or drawing names and coordinating a window with an elevation. That has been updated and submitted to your board. There has been no changes since the last time we were in front of you a number of months ago. We were waiting for DOT to respond. We did not get a response within the 30-day period, and then we subsequently submitted our application for tonight's hearing. Is there anything you'd like me to review again as a refresher, or?
We had kind of two outstanding comments. One was a minor comment about some signage on White Plains Road. It was in the traffic engineer's comments about the manual and uniform traffic control devices signs at those entrances. And then maybe if Rick could just speak to the stormwater.
Okay, so in terms of the signage, I have the drawings on the computer. I don't know if-
Did you add them and then I missed them?
Yes.
Okay.
No problem. It's been a while. It's not going? Let me try again. Oh, here it is. Okay. So the signage, we have the directional arrows, which are in the parking lot. And then on the entrance, on the south entrance on White Plains Road, we have two entry-only signs, which will be installed perpendicular to the flow of traffic for ease of view. And then on the south curb cut, we have a do not enter, same configuration, perpendicular to the road.
Okay.
And then a stop sign on Cypress. Internally, there's also directional signage on the building, which will direct the flow of traffic as well.
Sure.
In terms of drainage, I believe at our last hearing, all of the comments were.
Yeah, there's an existing system, but I think you need to be in construction to unveil it and look at it and then figure out what needs to be done. So.
Yes, that is correct. And at that time, I think Joe, who was here previously, said he would come out and, I guess, do the inspection with our civil engineer.
Right.
And then we'll make any modifications.
Right. So for the board, the way we would propose to address stormwater here is as a condition of the approval, just say at the time, during construction, the applicant will consult with the town engineer to figure out what needs to be done, and no certificate of occupancy can be issued until the drainage work is done to the town engineer's satisfaction.
Okay.
Sure.
Follow that language.
I can remember that. What's the, You still have questions for?
Nope, those are my only 2
So
points.
there's just, I'm just going through the conditions. Sure. There's some comment here also about the remaining comments raised by the town engineer in the memorandum dated
Yep.
27th.
Nope, that one we can dispense with because the only remaining issue is that number 3 on the
Oh, okay.
drainage.
The others, he just showed us, have been,
And number 1 has been addressed on the plans, I just missed it, so we can take that one out as well.
that's good. So I don't have any questions. So is this an open public hearing?
Yes.
Any comments from the public regarding this application? 360 White Plains Road? No. So I make a motion to close the public hearing on application 2327, 360 White Plains Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the conditions are the one way, you got that. During construction, the applicant shall consult with the town engineer to review the existing stormwater management system and modifications that are required. No CBO will be issued until all modifications to the stormwater management system required by the town engineer are completed. And I'll read the last one just for fun. This approval authorizes the applicant to undertake only activities specifically depicted on the plans submitted for review at this meeting in accordance with the resolution approval. Any change or modifications to such plans required amended site plan approval. But you probably already knew that. Good. So then, that being said, I make a motion to approve this application, 2327, 360 White Plains Road.
Subject to those conditions, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thanks, Louis.
Thank you for your time.
Good seeing you, Louis. We're going to miss you.
Likewise. Gave me enough time to finish a home renovation.
Have a good night. Take care. The next application and the real last one
Final
is
application, yes.
2117, 15 Tuckahoe Avenue subdivision.
Good evening, Michael Mastrogiacomo, design engineer for the project. We've been in front of you a few times. The last time we were in front of you was back in September. Since that time, we've worked with town staff, which are consulting engineers, to kind of clean up some of the details, get some more direction. We've changed the connections for the overflow for the stormwater through an easement out the back connecting to Howard, also with the sewer. That way we eliminate any interruption on Tuckahoe Avenue with the residents. There's a lot of issues there. In speaking to Rocco from DPW, we also spoke with Veolia, who was kind enough. They actually removed. I don't know if they removed, but abandoned the 8-inch main on Tuckahoe and installed a 10-inch main. So Chris Rhodey there told me there's more than enough water adequately to serve this project, which is great news. In the last meeting with the town staff, back in, I believe it was October, it was agreed, once we had the sewer camera down on Howard out to Joyce, that we can request to move forward to get to zoning, as we need a few variances in order to finalize the approval on the project. I guess then come back here for final approval.
Can you outline very succinctly for us what those variances that you're still going to need are?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so the
Yeah.
variances,
Who's Gary? Back there.
so the variances that we need are depicted on, let's see. So C101,
Can you
so,
hold on 1 second? Can we get our camera? Good, thank you. It's up. It wasn't up before. He's got it focused
okay.
now.
So one variance is the town requires 150 feet from the center line of the new road to the closest adjacent. We're going to need a 6.05-foot variance, as where White Plains Road and where our proposed road is, that is all we have. If we try to shift it, it'll create more issues. Another variance is we're supposed to have a 12.5-foot radius, a 12-foot radius here. Again, we don't own this property, so we're going to need that variance. Right now, lot 1, we're not proposing to do anything. We have a future vision for this whole lot, so this is going to require variances to keep the house until we finally decide what we're going to plan to do with this lot. So those are the variances I believe we need.
Okay. But the actual, that the homes that are contemplated to be built, they all require no variances?
No, all those lots, even this lot, everything, lot width, lot effective squares, lot area, all that, every lot meets all the codes. The only lot that doesn't meet any codes is this area which we changed. Instead of it having a separate lot, we made it as an easement in order to get rid of that whole other weird lot that we originally thought to have the stormwater on.
Very good. A discussion of easements, that's how we began the day.
Discussion of easements. We have received comments from your consulting engineers. I believe a lot of it, some of it is a little clarification, but I think all in all, you know, it's pretty much there. You know, we would like to at least get in front of the zoning board before we go any further with additional drawings and stuff.
So one thing in all the reading I did before this meeting, it came up, it was the sidewalk. Was that discussed, to put a sidewalk out to 22?
So there was a bunch of discussions. I don't believe we got any resolution on.
I mean, is that an option? How would you go about doing that?
Well, since there's a curb cut here, there's a curb cut for the pizzeria here. I don't think it'll be practical to bring something out to this corner. It's just going to be a small stretch and a small stretch.
Is there a sidewalk around 22?
There's a sidewalk on 22, but nothing here.
Yeah, I know, that's when you'd have to put it on their property if you to build a sidewalk?
Well, we'd have to come across their property
Right.
here and put two handicap ramps.
Oh my.
And really, anybody coming down the road, there's no other sidewalks on Tuckahoe Avenue, so they're going to come here. I doubt they're going to come up onto the sidewalk when you're already 90% of the way down.
No, I mean, I agree, I guess it's not a good idea to put a sidewalk, because for you to do it, you have to put it on it goes in their parking lot?
Unless it would fit in the right of way,
Because you own the right of way for the.
because the town would own the right of way, so we can come to an agreement for that.
Right, but it.
Right, we could do it in the right of way, but it's just this short stretch.
Oh, from there, okay.
Yeah, I think it'll also kind of look weird, just this little piece being sidewalk and
I
then
don't disagree.
the rest of Tuckahoe being a nice small community.
Yep, you're right. Okay. What are we doing here?
One other, we have had some communication with the fire department, and the applicant submitted the fire truck turning radius diagrams. The fire department is a little bit concerned that it's tight to make the turn into the subdivision road, particularly if a car is parked on Tuckahoe Avenue, and with parking on the subdivision road, that might be something that we should continue to explore kind of as we move through the application.
Yeah, right now there is, people do park on this side down, which way is north? More east of the property, you know, there is parking, people do park on the street, but we're not planning on having any parking on our street. I mean, it's tight enough to get in two-way traffic at the town minimum. To try to expand the width of the road, it's just gonna create less of an area to create landscaping and make it nice, put it that way.
So where exactly is the fire department concerned about if a car is parked?
When they to sweep in this side, when they have the largest vehicle that they have. The other two vehicles that they use, the two apparatuses, they make the turn well enough, everything worked. The largest one, as it came in, there was a little bit of congestion here, and then as you came around, like this light pole and this tree are going to be relocated over, so then when the truck does come around, it doesn't hit into it.
Yeah, and there was a concern with particularly with cars parked on Tuckahoe Avenue with the truck turning in,
But I
whether it would
believe
be
we
able to
had-
make that turn.
Yeah, I remember a few times here when we had public hearing as well, there was concerns with neighbors saying about parking there, and I think everybody was in agreement. I mean, can you stop somebody from just parking there? No, I mean, that would be something that the police department would have to police, but we're
But you
not
also have
looking
to,
at
you
creating
also
any
have to have
parking.
signs saying no parking.
Yeah, we can
Right.
add signs to say no parking.
Well, on Tuckahoe, that would take an action of the town board.
I'm sorry?
To prohibit parking on Tuckahoe Avenue would take an action of the town board.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something we usually address.
But I can add a couple of signs on the drawing to show no parking.
Sure.
I think we discussed that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth some further review and discussion with the fire department.
That's fine. I don't have any other questions, you guys?
Nope.
This is still an open public hearing?
Yeah, the issue with the fire department can be analyzed concurrently, right, with the zoning board?
Sure, if you feel comfortable making a secret determination, the turning radius for the fire trucks goes to our subdivision standards and access, so that is something we can continue to work on, even if you decide to, and that is an issue that might come up for both variances before the zoning board, so it might be something we work out even before that board sees this application.
So this is an open public hearing, so if there's any members of the public that would like to comment, now's the time. This is a water issue.
I don't know if you can get that. So my name is Jean Gessoff, and I live at 5 Duluth Place. And the picture that I just put up there is the water that collects on this part of the property that they're going to develop. And first of all, I'd just like to say it makes me very sad when these nature preserves are developed and all of the wildness that there is in Eastchester is gone. That makes me very sad. But having said that, we have the neighbors and mine. I don't live on Tuckahoe. I live on Duluth Place, which is a cul-de-sac, and my property backs up to where it's going to be developed. We've always been concerned about the water that collects there. And I've been in touch with the town, and they've come out and they've looked for drains, and I was here, I don't know, 2 years ago, and we talked about were there drains there, and it turns out there are drains, and they were not clogged, which I thought they were, but apparently they're not big enough. And so from what I understood, from what I looked at with what you had, that you're gonna put in bigger drains, and they're gonna come out onto Howard, which, how are you going to get to Howard? Because my property and my neighbor's property, you have to come through there in order to reach Howard, which is a dead end. And nobody's contacted me or neighbors about how are you going to bring these pipes, these drain pipes, through our property? Or will they be our property? I don't know, and that's my question. But you said you're going to put bigger ones. So you're going to be coming onto our properties. When are we going to be notified of this?
My office did actually send out a letter to you. We spoke to Mrs. Stewart. We've already spoken to her.
Okay, but you didn't speak, we did not get a letter. 5 Duluth Place. I know, Benny? Benny did not
So
get a
could you
letter.
do me a favor? Could you get up? I mean, you're saying some important things. Maybe you could get to the mic.
No, can you speak into the
Mr.
microphone?
Giacomo, we
you
have
get
a
to the
court
mic?
reporter who, I think, all the sound goes through the microphone, and so the
Yeah, I
court
mean,
reporter can't
what
always
you-
hear it.
What you're saying should be on the record directly, so maybe you could
You can
repeat.
hand the phone back, hand the mic back and forth to each other if you need to, but we want to make sure to get it all. Yeah.
What we can do is we could exchange numbers, and I can come out, and we can walk through everything and discuss everything.
I think
whenever's-
it's time for that, right?
If you could write down
Here's
your
my card.
information, I will call you tomorrow morning.
Okay, that was my concern.
Yes,
that
a
these
very legitimate
pipes
one.
are going to be, need to be made bigger, and I think that's coming through our property. And I don't know, what happens? I don't know how that even, do they have to take the expense of that is all on the contractor? I don't know.
Yeah, and just, you've provided us with a photograph here that obviously shows a lot of water in it. Can you be more specific as, do you recall when this photograph was taken?
When we had all that rain last spring.
Okay, yeah, all right.
And the water table is very high right now because even just little rains, it collects back there. But this was the worst it's been, and and it was all overgrown, and Gail Stewart she's got a lot of that stuff out of there, and so the property is not as wild looking as it had been, but there are lots of vines and stuff, and so that's why I thought that the drains were clogged. but apparently they're just not big enough, so.
Yes. Well,
Okay,
I know
thank
Mr.
you.
Bolander, I think, will speak to some of the drainage issues, the water, stormwater management issues. I do, by the way, share your sentiment that I don't like seeing, spaces being developed, but responsible development is a reality. The place that Duluth that you live on was at one point undeveloped. It is now. I certainly don't lose sight of that. We try to minimize the impact, but owners do have a right to try to develop their property and to do so responsibly, and that's what we're here for.
It's just sad.
Right,
I don't disagree.
I guess while our consultant's here, do you want to, can you address?
Rick Bolander, KSU.
Oh, yeah, okay.
KSUJ
Got it.
Consulting. Just for clarification, what we require of the applicant is to reduce peak rate flows for the 100-year storm event, which is equal to about 9.5 inches of rain over a 24-hour period. So a significant amount of rain. They're forced, they have to collect that, detain it in a system, and then slowly release that to the improved system that will be connecting into Howard. So that's a requirement of them. So what you're seeing now currently will have to be improved. And they'll prove that to us in calculations and whatnot. That's a requirement of the town, of us reviewing that. So just so you're aware, that's what they're required to do, and that's what their design is doing. I'm the consulting engineer, Rick Bolander with KSCJ Consulting.
He's our engineer.
So we
He's with
review,
us.
they prepare the drawings, we review it very thoroughly, and it has been, I don't know how many comment letters we've issued. It's been years of this now and highly scrutinized, so
Yeah, to clarify, the applicant has its own engineer who examines this and makes presentations, and that work is verified and examined by the consulting engineer who's hired. I think at the applicant pays money into an escrow, and that money is used to retain this outside consultant so that we get as objective a viewpoint as we can to make sure that most applicants will obviously skew the result towards skew their findings towards the result they want. That's human nature, but Mr. Bolander really has no dog in this fight. So he will presumably be able to verify objectively.
And there's still work to be done too, just tidying up and tighten up that stormwater design too. We still haven't accepted it. It's there, but there's still some tidying up to do that we'll make sure happens.
Thank you.
I'll put my name on this too. Thank you. Vincent Dioria. I live at 86 Howard Avenue, even though it says Howard Place on most of the papers. Bought a house with a basement in Eastchester. Apparently not the best thing to do. 15 years ago, had a sub pump already there. We fixed up the sub pump. Had a drought this year. The sub pump still goes off. I mean, it's going off constantly. The water table there is high. I get it. We have the pumps. Our basement's been dry since we bought the house. This project, when it was I first heard about it, it all said it was pushing the water away from us and towards Tuckahoe Avenue. Now it's coming towards us. Our sewer system, I guess you're gonna make it bigger, which is great, but there's no sewer drains from past Cypress down. The water is not pitched going towards any sewers. The water sits in that dead end all day. And that area, that picture that Gene showed, is like that for a little rain. That wasn't the 6-inch rains or a deluge. Every rain, it goes there. That water's gonna get pushed somewhere. and it's going to get pushed to a sewer system that doesn't work great, a sewer system that doesn't really exist on our block, and I don't know where that water is all going. It's being held somewhere in the system. I don't get that. Personally, sorry, I wrote 914. I understand that the town is looking into it, and that's great, but what's the guarantee that if it's going to work? Because if I've had no water in my basement for 15 years and these buildings go up, and I don't care about the buildings go up, I don't care about the wildlife because it's mostly raccoons and possums back there. But what I care about is my basement staying dry. It's been dry for 15 years. If this goes up and we get water, I mean, it's only my presumption that it came from this building. So I don't know what the town's responsibility is at that point versus the builder. I don't know the laws on that exactly.
Is that any other questions, or it's mainly?
No, it's just, I guess it's just, I was told to come to these meetings, and how come this is always the last one every time? Can we do this as the first one next time? Because we don't have that many people. Because they want, I know, it's every time, it's always
He
the
goes
last
first
thing.
next time, okay.
Yeah, switch up the order, go last to first.
We're going to flip it the next next time you're here. So let's try and answer the question.
Yeah.
So just in general, just so my knowledge, so any water coming off the site gets held on the site in the detention tank, and then it gets released, correct?
Correct. So the way the system works, let's go back to the plan, because this kind of has more information. The stormwater for the road is all collected in these series of catch basins and piped into this underground chamber system that's sized for the 100-year storm. That's what we're going back and forth with detailing on.
Okay.
Then it's going to overflow and come down and tie into Howard. Now, just a little bit of history on this whole area. When the shopping center was constructed, they raised the grade of the shopping center about 5 feet, roughly. And what happened is all the water stopped because everything runs this way, runs roughly northeast. Since that retaining wall is there, it blocked everything. This started flooding. This is back in I have to go back through my records, but roughly the 60s. At that time, I guess a lot of people complained that now there's all standing water. The town actually came in and ran a series of drains out to Howard. And then in Howard, at the dead end of Howard, off the grass, there's a manhole. It's made out of brick, it's an old manhole. From there, it runs along Howard and down Joyce and ties into whatever town system, wherever it goes. That system was just put in, and there's very little records on this system. So we surveyed it, and the pipes are very well undersized. I mean, they're very shallow. There's not enough room to collect the water to get it out. That's why there's all that standing water.
Which pipes are you talking? You're talking about the pipes along the retaining wall?
The old pipes along the retaining wall that are there now.
Okay.
What we are doing with this whole system, and again, these are all the numbers that we're going back and forth with, is making sure these pipes are properly sized to collect not only just the water from the road and out, but any overflow. Each house is going to have a 100-year storm system collection, but preventative also put an overflow system into this new extension in order to make sure we don't disturb any neighbors. That system can also be able to help collect anybody's sump pump that might not be working right, have a place for it to actually go to discharge, things of that nature. If somebody needs to put some sort of French drain to dry up their lawn a little bit because it's very wet, it can all be able to handle that.
Wasn't, I think the neighbor just commented on, and I think this is correct, that originally the excess water was going to flow out towards Tuckahoe, right?
Right,
Yeah.
but the only place, and if you remember, we had all the neighbors here because the system on Tuckahoe is very ancient, and that's even undersized. And the closest connection point is 1,000 feet away, and it's
Okay. Because if
not
you're
feasible. It's so dead flat that you can't even
if
get
you're
it going.
putting it on Howard and then it connects to Joyce, then like that's short, there are just a couple of houses before the intersection of Howard and Joyce.
Correct.
Howard and Joyce, though, actually intersect twice.
Well,
So
this
you were
side, yeah.
talking about this one
This
here,
side
right?
of it, yeah, yeah.
And then it goes down Joyce?
It goes
and so-
downhill, and
yeah.
there's a large,
Yeah, I
a
know.
large differential gradient going down, so
Yes.
the water has a better chance of it relieving and not backing up and flooding anybody.
Okay, but that also arguably could become someone else's problem if those pipes aren't, if they're of a similar caliber as the Tuckahoe Avenue pipes.
No, no, those pipes are actually in a lot better condition. I met out there with Rocco from DPW. He even, you know, he ran the camera in a few spots, and that's how we found a lot of the stuff. And those pipes are in a lot better condition than
Well, I think
Tuckahoe Avenue.
the
They're a lot larger
that
size.
development was from about 1950.
Yes.
Whereas the Tuckahoe Avenue, I think, is significantly older than that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe
Where's
it was
the-
like early 1900s, I think was Tuckahoe Avenue.
Can you point out where the gentleman's house is?
86 Tuckahoe, 86 Howard.
Last
Oh,
house
right
on,
here.
yeah,
Right
okay.
there, yeah.
So I mean, I'm not a water engineer and I don't want to try and be one, but it seems that any water that's currently on that site has to find a way off of it.
Correct.
And perhaps it goes to Howard. I have no idea where it goes. It's sloped in, that site's sloped in which direction currently?
Well, it's currently everything's sloped towards the shopping center. And that's why this is like the dead area here where it's got no movement because the grade comes up very little, but the grade does come up going towards Howard.
So now with this development, we're actually taking any water that hits that block of land and sending it down Joyce far away from here.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, is it reasonable to think that's a better condition, or I'm talking to, do you want to opine on that a little bit?
Yes, definitely a better condition because as it is now, it's just it's sitting, it's slowly dissipating. It's whatever's not whatever's not sitting on top of the soil is getting percolated into the ground, and it'll eventually make its way as the grades are on the surface. It'll start making its way apparently towards 86 Howard. Now it'll be controlled and piped and dissipated much faster than it was under existing conditions and in a much more controlled manner.
I don't know if that's an answer, but it seems. Yeah, I mean, I can't do any, I can't predict the future, especially when it comes to water, but.
No, but from what you said, that,
But they're very, very flat. So the water is going very, very slowly out. You don't even see it. That's why it takes 2 or 3 days for everything.
So the pipes, the bigger pipes that are going to be put in along that retaining wall are also going to have more of a slope downwards? Is that what will ensure that the water keeps flowing? And that right now, you say it's pretty flat, so it doesn't, the water doesn't rush out.
Right, well, the mathematics goes between the pipe diameter, the pitch, the slope of the pipe, and also the type of pipe. So, that's what we're going back and forth with to make sure that all those pieces of the puzzle work correctly so then we don't have this issue any longer.
Okay.
And what are the odds that it's going to work correctly? I think that's
I'm confident it'll
the
work.
question over here.
I'm confident it'll work
Okay, you're
correctly.
confident.
Very confident. We've been doing this a very
Well,
long time. I
okay.
think we can figure it out.
Well, just, it's a legitimate concern. I would think that you should be very thankful you have had no water in your basement for 15 years. 15 years
probably-
included Sandy and, yeah. So, but believe me, there wasn't an application that came before this board for about a 2 or 3 year period where anyone trying to build something didn't talk about how they have problems with water. And it's not as prevalent now because we haven't had, we had a few storms last year maybe, but we had a rash of storms around that time in the early 2010s, and it was affecting everyone, so.
That's all we can say right now. We're planning for it. Hopefully it gets better. If it doesn't, you're gonna have to go talk to Mr. Calavita about it. Who maintains it?
The town does it.
Town.
Well, on the
Oh, the one
property,
on the site, that one?
yeah. There will have to be a legal mechanism to maintain it, a homeowners association, preferably, maybe one lot will take on that requirement, but as a part of any final approval of this application, which we're still pretty far from, because we have to make an environmental determination, then it has to go to the zoning board, that legal structure will have to be approved.
Right, it's not just gonna be left, someone's obviously gonna have to be identified to maintain it. All right,
That's actually one of the requirements, I think, before any final approval is I have to provide that legal document.
Yes, definitely.
any other comments, guys? You're good? Okay, so then, I really don't have any trouble with the negative declaration for this.
You gotta close the public hearing?
No, we should keep
No.
that open to receive
Yeah.
the determination from the zoning
Yeah,
board.
so I'll make a motion to keep the public hearing on this application open.
One thing just before we move forward with the neg deck, so if you remember, in order to come to the negative declaration, we review part 2 of the environmental assessment form. I know you're very familiar with that form, so I don't know if you feel the need to go through it point by point. I've gone through it, and some of the points that maybe are in that moderate impact are, like some of the other subdivisions we've seen, the construction timetable will be longer than 1 year, but that will be regulated by the building permit process. We are creating new lots within this subdivision, and so therefore, at the end of the day, a recreation fee will be required. The applicant has performed a CCTV analysis of the sanitary sewer system, so that's something that he will continue to work with the highway department and the town engineer on to come to a resolution as to how that has to be mitigated. And he will have to prepare a full stormwater pollution prevention plan, which will have to be approved by the town engineer. That's also something that we will continue to work on. So those are some of the, some of the highlights, when we pull out of the questions, those are the things that I just wanted to point out.
I think you did it for us, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so then, taking into account the comments that Noel just brought up, I make a motion to adopt the secret negative declaration for application 21-17, 15 Tuckahoe Avenue subdivision based on the full environmental assessment form, parts 1 and 2.
Second.
Part 1, right?
Oh, part, yeah.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I guess I already motioned to leave the public hearing open, so
And to refer it, right?
I can make a motion to refer this application to the zoning board of appeals for required variances.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, you're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. So there's just one other thing before we go. Not you, this is for the public. Right, you can say if you want to hear, it's about Sal's Market and Pizzeria. So this is just, we have one application, 23-15, Sal's Market and Pizzeria was last reviewed by the planning board at its June 27, 2024 meeting. Before that meeting, we received variances from the ZBA and a recommendation from the ARB. Since that time, the applicant has not made a substantive submission on the application. It is not clear if the applicant intends to proceed with it. I'd like to ask the planning board staff to send a letter to the applicant asking them to submit a status update to the board about how it intends to proceed. If it does not do so by the March meeting, I would like to consider a resolution denying the application for failure to pursue it. If such a resolution is adopted and the applicant wants to pursue the proposed improvements in the future, we would simply have to make a new application. So, with that narrative, I make a request that the planning department staff contact a representative application 23-15, Sal's Market and Pizzeria, to ask them to confirm whether they plan to proceed for review at the March 27th meeting, and to advise that the failure to do so will result in the denial of the application without prejudice, to refile in the future for failure to pursue it. Second?
Do you need to make a motion to do that?
Did I do that already?
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
he
his
did make a
motion,
motion. Okay,
Was a
okay.
motion.
I
started
missed the
with,
word
I'd like to make a
motion.
motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good.
It's 10 o'clock, yeah, cut me
Yeah,
some
so then
slack.
I make a motion, cut you some slack. I make a motion to close the Town of Eastchester Planning Board meeting of February 27, 2025.
That I heard. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. We're good.
All right, thank you.